All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty falling fast asleep, and I am your host, Lunch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How's everybody doing tonight? First, I want to give a big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back, even though you missed the live parties. Guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like. So just subscribe. It's free. I promise. If it was your channel, I definitely would. And if you have a channel, let me know. I'll subscribe. Let's also say thank you to mysickshirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it is the only place to get your very own, the Indian Jesus official merch. All right. Welcome to the party. We got Opus in the building. Welcome, brother. So we got an interesting show today. You know, we've talked a lot about the kids and books thing. I don't know how people are still, conversing about this without understanding. But we have this woman who appeared on the Triggernometry Podcast, who works for Fox News and the New York Post, and she wrote a book on all of these books. So we're gonna get into it. As always, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
Hello and welcome to Triggernometry on the road from the USA. I'm Francis Foster.
I'm Konstantin Kisin.
And this is a show for you if you want honest conversations with fascinating people.
Our brilliant guest today is the co-author of this book, Stolen Youth, Karol Markowicz. Welcome to Triggernometry.
Thanks, guys. Nice to be here.
It is great to have you here. And by the way, thank you to our locals for lending us the studio in Miami so we could do this. This is great. Listen, the same question as we always ask all our guests is, who are you? What's been your journey through life? How do you find yourself sitting here talking to us?
I'm a columnist at the New York Post for over a decade, and I also write for a lot of other places. And I moved to Florida, which is where we are, about a year ago, very publicly, because I had been a lifelong New York supremacist and really always defended New York City against all slights, real and perceived. And about a year and a bit ago, our family decided that we had had enough. The schools had been closed. The masks had been on kids for too long. The wokeness had overrun everything. Reality had ceased to exist for a lot of our neighbors, and we had to get out.
Hey, we got David Banner in the building. Welcome to the party. We got Ziggs and Zippy the Strange. Welcome to the party. So we do have that poll up right now. Did Florida hold a book burning? Just yes or no, and we'll get into it when we get there. Zippy says gonna say no. It seems rather moot to burn books unless you're the church. Good one. That's a good one. But I mean, I think these books should be burned, just because of what they stand for. But obviously, in America, we should be able to have freedom of speech. But where does that end? And where do we start caring about the children?
So that is how we're sitting here in Florida today, and the book is an outgrowth of that as well.
Yeah, and before that, your family moved here from the Soviet Union.
That's right. We were thinking about doing this interview in Russian, but thought that might be not
My Russian
not
wasn't
cool
going
right
to be good
now.
enough. Francis was fine. I was strong.
Yeah, it's also iffy time to be Russian.
Yes, that's right.
So one thing I'm already noticing is that the topic of discussion is usually with someone, very on the edge of what is considered, normal and acceptable conversation. And this book conversation keeps coming up with more and more and more normal people. And that's what needs to happen. Like we've been saying, that normal people who are not, in the weeds of politics, people just go about their lives, people just go to work, they take care of their family. These are the people that we need to actually stand up and say that they're against this stuff.
That's right.
So I've been reading the book. I find it very interesting. This is a moment every trigonometry viewer and listener is going to drink because I'm a former teacher, and I was reading about what's happening in education in the United States. It sounds terrifying, to put it mildly. So what is the state of education at the moment?
This is exactly why we have to, because again, they are pushing as hard as they can. They are pushing as hard as they can. So I'm just as sick of it as you are. But this is the conversation. This is what everybody is focused on. This is what everybody cares about. And I think with good reason. It's just a lot. It's so much. I definitely feel you, but it's just like, oh my God. Zippy says the church and Nazis need the hellfire and brimstone to be the fear of God in you. The state is like, nah, we'll just take a few dozen crotch bikes and burn them to make a point we are bad with money. Fair enough. Yeah, see, that's why we need to fight, Opus. You're losing, and you don't even know it. Well, I guess you do know, but they're gaining ground, man. We got to do something.
In public schools in the US.
In public and private, it is pretty dire. The woke have marched through our institutions and they have taken over schools at pretty much every level. It begins in teachers' colleges where the teachers themselves are indoctrinated into leftist philosophy. They use Marxist books to teach the teachers. A lot of times the teachers don't even know that they're being indoctrinated, and then these teachers disperse throughout the country and end up arguing things like math is racist. And this is reality that's happening in schools across the country.
And again, you guys are probably familiar with the whole meme of 2 + 2 = 5. But we have to we can't forget that just because we know doesn't mean that everybody else knows. Just because we know doesn't mean, just because we talk about it doesn't mean that we alone are going to change things. So, not a super radically different conversation than we would typically have here, but this is what is going on. This is what matters right now.
And I do note that it is public and private because I think one of the main solutions to all of this in America has been school choice, where you get the portion of the funding that would have gone to educate your child in a public school. You could take that funding and go to private or parochial or et cetera. The issue with that is that it's very hard to find private and parochial schools that are also not woke. It's a minority of schools across the country that haven't been ideologically captured.
Yeah, and you would think that a private school where you're paying to go there, you're a customer, as opposed to a public school, you'd have a lot more control over it. But, and I mean, I feel like because private school, like if your kid's in private school, you're probably, at least fiscally, going to be a little bit more conservative to be in that class anyway. You would think that the private schools would be a safe haven. Nope. Zippy says New York governor a few years ago crushed thousands in bikes because they have anti-small bike ordinances. Okay. Well, they are very good at wasting money. That is true. Very much so.
Karol, if I'm listening to this, I'm not someone who is clued up on all this. I don't even know what woke means. It almost sounds like a bit of a parody. The woke people have taken over the institutions. They've brainwashed the teachers. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, Opus, you're right on point. School choice would have made all of this garbage impossible. Now, probably too late, just like she said. I don't know about that. This is not over, and they have played their hand. The alphabet mafia, they have played their hand. Everything they have is out there. So that's why I feel like we are, if we're not there, we're nearing that place where it's finally going to swing back in the other direction. But it's not just going to happen organically. It's got to be us. We got to do it.
The subtitle to the book is How Radicals Are Raising Innocence and Indoctrinating Children. If I'm a parent, I don't care about the stuff. I've got a job. What's going on in the school that I should care about?
So that used to be me, I think before writing this book, I would have said that a lot of this stuff sounds like a conspiracy theory. And I don't know that I thought that I was going to find what we found while writing this. I am a very optimistic, everybody kind of wants the best for everyone. And come on, obviously they're not teaching Marxism at teachers' colleges. That's crazy, Constantine. So, it ends up being something that's very hard to convince people. And I would have been one of those people had I not seen what I saw in writing this book.
And that's, again, why we need to continue having this discussion. Because just because we know it, that doesn't mean anything is going to change. So it sounds like the move for for LGB to divorce from the rest of them. It sounds like that move is catching steam, and that is a good thing.
Bingo!
That's exactly what I'm saying, man. And it's because of people like me who are going to talk about this stuff. It's like people like you who are going to be a part of this and have these ideas spread to people who aren't going to be watching stuff like this or making stuff like this. Good job. Shout out to all of you.
So what I say to parents is, you know something questionable is going on. You might not have a label for it. You might not call it woke. Woke is, to me, when leftism meets a forced conformity. That's how.
Ooh, I forgot we didn't have these on. But when leftism meets what did she say?
Woke is, to me, when leftism meets a forced conformity.
When leftism meets a forced conformity. That is, I mean, anybody have an issue with that definition? I think that is perfect.
That's how I describe wokeism. So the old leftism they might indoctrinate your kids or try to. They might try to put in information that is really one-sided into curriculums, yes. But the new wokeism does that and also does not allow stepping outside of the lines whatsoever. They do not allow other opinions. They do not allow other influences or considerations. So while the old leftist teacher might, paint a picture, let's say, of America as being this like terrible place where we just, slaughtered the Native Americans and stole all their land and we have nothing positive about us at all. They would often present the opposite opinion as well. Now it's like, this is what we believe. We believe this now.
We believe. What other area in life do we talk about what we believe?
Jesus fucking Christ!
Dogma.
And what I say often also is that liberals are hardest hit by this. It's not really conservatives like me. I don't really care what they say. I can brush it off and that's it. But for liberals, they've gotten to where they're very scared to speak, and their liberal teachers are very scared to speak. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to be ostracized by their tribe.
Right. And again, this is why, and I have to keep hammering this home, guys, because this is the whole point. We have to keep hammering this home because there are people who are aware of what's going on, but they don't necessarily feel the weight of it. And so that's where we come in. Hey, we got Melted Mind Media in the building. What is good? Welcome to the party. Melted Mind Media says, oh God, I hope they don't remake Reading Rainbow. It would be a whole different show now. I agree. I definitely agree. Shout out to Melted Mind Media, another awesome YouTuber. Definitely go check his channel out. Just drop the link in the chat. Welcome to the party, brother.
And so you have this conformist thinking that is, has taken over everything. And I think parents recognize it, and they might not be able to label it or name it, but they know it's happening.
And again, that is what we are here for. To those parents, those people who are not in the weeds, we are here to translate the semantic obfuscation into, hey, this is really what's going on. Said LeVar Burton is woke. Oh no, I love him in the scenes that he's in Community for Reading Rainbow. I used to love Reading Rainbow, but hey, whatever, LeVar. I don't think he's super. I don't think he's as influential as he once was.
And the reason I asked this because I think there are quite a few people now who feel this way. Like Dave Rubin had me on his show on this very set yesterday. We recorded it, and we were talking about, will we ever move to America and why not, etc. And one of the things I was saying is, the one thing is children's education that is terrifying, because you know this as a mother. Like, you give birth to this little thing and you raise it, you nurture it. And then, they're not that old when you send them off to be, brainwashed by people. And it is.
And Zibby, PBS, that's state-sponsored media. Of course, that they're going to be one of the first ones to go down that route, because this is the establishment narrative. This is the establishment thinking. This is what they want you to think. So, of course.
quite scary, I think, for a lot of parents. But I suppose the question is, on a practical level, what can you tell us about what children in this country are being taught at school that should concern people?
Hurrah!
So it's interesting. I lived in the UK. I started telling you guys this before the show started, but I lived in Scotland. And the first time I lived in Scotland,
apologies.
I really loved it. And I loved, and I moved there because I had just fallen in love with the country. But I moved the first time to study on a commune in Scotland, in the north of Scotland. Open conservative, lived on a commune. All my, flatmates knew who I was and what I believed. And maybe that could still happen in Scotland. I don't know. That cannot happen in America. Not only, forget about the commune, you cannot have flatmates who have different political beliefs than you do currently in the US. It just isn't like when you have ads for roommates in newspapers, it'll say, no conservatives or no, Trumpers or no.
Same thing on dating apps. That's a huge thing. If you're, especially when Trump was in office, if you have anything nice to say about Trump, don't even bother swiping right.
Oh, just no, not anybody who doesn't believe what we believe.
One
So
of us.
all of
One of
that
us.
is scary to me. That kind of conformity. I don't know if you guys have gotten to there yet in the UK. I don't know that you
Be
worry
worse.
about what your kids are learning in school, but
Oh yeah, it's worse over there. It's worse over there. They're like one step ahead of us in terms of how far they're pushing it. Zippy says NewsHour went bad 10 to 15 years ago. Mid 2000s, it was not so bad. The death of fairness doctrine, death of fairness documentary. I don't know what that is. Really quickened the decline of all news media. I mean, the idea that news is entertainment has been something for so long, and like you're saying, even in the mid 2000s, it was the fairness doctrine. Thank you. Even then, like the push was that okay, we're going to allow a little bit of ideology into what we're saying, but it's not about convincing anybody to be exactly like us. Whereas now that's all it is. That's all it is. So let's jump forward here a little bit to, okay, I think she's at the part I want to get into.
for me, I have now seen something that I can't unsee and I have to battle it at home. I was telling you that my kids watched your Oxford Union speech because to me, I wanted to explain to them why the rest of the world is not, let's say, focusing on climate change.
Did you guys see that when Constantine over here was in front of the Oxford Parliamentary something or another and he gave that speech on wokeness? If not, you should definitely check it out.
Same way that our 18-year-olds are and why that matters. So at home, we try to really lay the foundation so that when they go out into the world, I'm not as worried about them being ripe for indoctrination.
And Karol, what specific things are happening in the classroom that you would say is wrong and teachers shouldn't be teaching?
All right, guys. Trigger warning. Some of you know, but it's going to get nasty. It's going to get nasty. And not the fun kind of nasty. Zippy says the fairness doctrine forced news shows to show more than two sides of an issue. It was janky, but you can see a difference when they canned it around 2014. All right, there. Thank you very much.
Well, we have so many
Resident fact
examples in the book of things that teachers absolutely shouldn't be teaching. I kind of joke about the whole math is racist, but that's happening. That is actually happening. Where if you believe that 2 + 2 will always equal 4, that is a racist construct, and that is.
Does that really happen?
That is really
that
happening.
happens in the school.
How insane
Because I
is
see
that?
idiots
Yeah.
saying it on Twitter,
No.
but when
And so again, even this guy is he's got a huge podcast. I think like a 500,000 subscribers, talking to real big names, and even he can't tell the difference between like, is this just a meme or is this reality? And you can't tell the difference because reality has become so ridiculous that other anything that you could make up isn't going to be as ridiculous as reality. Opus says TV news is dead, especially in the US, where we refuse to ban pharmaceutical ads like every other developed country in the world. Yeah, I mean, like Tucker was it. People would watch Tucker for Tucker, but it's not like people who watch CNN are like, oh, I got to check what Anderson Cooper said about this, that, or the other. Or I can't wait to see specifically Rachel Maddow's opinion on X, Y, and Z. It's just there. It's just there. If Anderson Cooper retired and they brought somebody else in, it would not change the numbers at all. I mean, it might go down, but not by much because, again, people don't care about that. And so Tucker was the last personality that people went to for news, specifically for that person's opinion. And now that he is, he is doing his own show on Twitter. I haven't seen exactly how far that's gone. And then there's a lawsuit because he's still employed by Fox. But TV news is, in fact, dead.
When
It's
people
real.
assert that it's happening in
Oh.
a school, I'm like, is it?
Yes, we trace it to two teachers' colleges. Again, they're learning this. They're learning the idea that 2 + 2 does not always equal 4. And if you're adamant that it does, that is a racist construct, a white supremacist construct that you believe. So many other things that go beyond, that kind of nonsense. But we keep hearing stories in the U.S. of kids being transitioned in the classroom behind their parents' backs, where
There you go. Shout out to Tucker. I'd seen there was something where he had to stop doing his show. Has he been doing it every day? Because I thought there was something with Fox going to sue him or something, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we're just like, all right, sue me then. Sue me.
where they don't tell the parents that the little girl has decided she's a little boy, and they give them a new name, and they let the kid bring in other clothes to wear. And we're talking,
So if you didn't catch what we just saw, we have here a room of clothes for kids who are transitioning in secret. In secret. Now, a lot of times we talk about how, you don't have to get the surgery to be trans, and it's just the social transition and all that kind of stuff. Okay, then how is this legal? How are you allowed to put a child in that category? Not only without the parents, nice. Shout out to Tucker. Not only without the permission of the parents, but specifically against what many parents want. Hey, we got Lars and Rune in the building. Welcome to the party. Morty, you're missing your treats. Where are you? Oh, he went away. So I'm gonna. There you go. Morty's back. There you go. Thank you so much, Lars and Rune, the new sponsor of the stream. A great quote there. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. Please. Instead of doing this, leave them alone. Welcome to the party, brother.
and they give them a new name, and they let the kid bring in other clothes to wear. And we're talking, when you picture this, you might be picturing like a 16-year-old. But one of the recent cases was a 4th grader, which in the U.S. is around 9-10 years old. Keeps happening. It's not like one story, it's like dozens at this point. And the idea that the teacher can have a secret with your child is scary, and parents should be afraid, because maybe your child doesn't have gender dysphoria and thinks that they might be a different gender.
Again, shout out to Lars and Rune. Thank you so much for being the sponsor of the stream.
But they could have other problems that the teacher's going to keep from you and decide that you're not worth, bringing into the conversation. And that should really scare people.
And Karol, look, as someone, again, who used to work in that sector, it's surely got to be a minority, hasn't it? Because just from my experiences of teachers in a career that spanned, 12 to 13 years?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that many of them behaving in this fashion, if I'm honest.
Of course,
but then,
of course it's a minority. It couldn't, if we had 50+% of the teachers across the country deciding that your kid, might be of a different gender, and
Oh, that would be insane. And well, they mirrored me. Yeah, exactly right. I try not to say this word out loud too much on air, but it is so obvious. It is so obvious that this is what's happening. It's so obvious that we are pushing norms, and even if the first step in this is not anything inherently bad. So the first step is, it's okay if you, the clothes your mom bought and picked out for you this morning, you come to school and you just put that's inherently not that big a deal. You're just wearing different clothes. But when you put it in the context of, okay, we're going to let you do this now, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, now we're going to make laws that say, oh, you've been transitioning socially for the last 5 years without anybody knowing, but because it's been so long, now you legally are that gender or something.
What?
It's going to be that crazy. It's going to be that crazy. Shout out again to Lars and Rune. Zippy said, the bots are watching your words and tallying your social credit, comrade. I know. It is scary. But we got to be out here fighting the good fight. Am I right?
And not telling you about it, I think that would really be a bigger problem. But it's happening, and so again, it's like it could be one thing, it could be another thing. At my kids' school in Brooklyn, getting the kids to march for different causes has become standard. They have marched against guns. They have marched against hate, vague hate. They've marched obviously for climate change.
Of course.
Policies to be altered.
How dare you?
And I think all of those, even if you have positions on those issues, I don't think there's anything wrong with, being open about them. But when you use your kids for as political pawns or political just like virtue signals on either side, if your kid is at I think I saw a video of a kid at a counter protest for a pride event where he's like stomping on the rainbow flag and whatever. Like, why? Hey, we got Unwanted Bo in the building. Welcome to the party. That's what I should have phrased it. Have you heard of Florida having a book burning? But we'll get to that. So if you are not aware of what I'm talking about, then strap in, Unwanted Bo. This is going to be a heavy one. So they're just talking now about how they're in schools, they'll have organized marches for all these things, and I say either side of the aisle, using your kids as political pawns to virtue signal is weak.
And I tell a story in the book where I let my first grader, my middle son, march in this climate march because we had just switched schools after the school year had started. He was already new and different. And I didn't want to speak up, and I would never, it still bothers me that I didn't say anything because my little 7-year-old marched around with a "Earth dies, we die" sign. And then he came up with like ideas on helicopters and caves and what he can do to like fight climate change. And you wanted my first grader on it, and now he's on it. And, you could see where this grows into anxiety for kids. And
that's a fantastic point. When you put these adult issues on your children, they are not prepared to deal with adult issues because they are not adults. And the anxiety that these kids must feel that, I have to save the world, or I have to make sure all the trans people don't die. That's so much pressure. That is so much pressure to put on a kid. Oga said that father who got targeted by the FBI for pro-life activism was taking his kids to protest. I think that is not right either. Exactly. I think that, if you are, that's just not the place. That's just not the place. If you want to talk to them about why you are pro-life and why I'm going out to do this thing because this thing is happening, this is something that I care about, that's fine. But when you bring them there, it's indoctrination. I mean, same thing happens when you bring them to church, but that's neither here nor there. Kids should be learning and playing.
Bingo.
Yep. Unwanted Foe said, plead to emotions, using your kid as a political tool.
Yes.
Yep. And it's on both sides, and it's frustrating because in many ways it does work. The optics of a child being like, oh my goodness, your child is so worldly. Your child knows about these issues. Like, no, they're just doing what you told them to do. Yep, the woke industrial complex is a raging. Hey, we got Lutos in the building. Welcome to the party. Unfortunately, we still have straight up P-Hub type material in front of children in their schools. And until it's gone, we ain't going to stop talking about it. Welcome.
that is a giant problem.
Back that up. That was a good point.
What he can do to like fight climate change. And you wanted my first grader on it, and now he's on it. And, you could see where this grows into anxiety for kids. And that is a giant problem. So many kids have issues because they are told that the earth is ending and you are tasked with stopping it, little 7-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. That is just too much to put on a child. Zippy said, are free speech protests bad too? I guess yes. It's not a place for kids. Maybe young adults, 16 plus. If they're old enough to drive, then they're old enough for civics. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that, even if the child expresses something, like, let's say we're talking about a 13-year-old. There's precocious 13-year-olds. And I could see that a 13-year-old would be involved in civics and politics and stuff. I remember when I was in middle school, there was this one kid who was all about politics. He wanted to run for president and stuff, probably because his parents were jamming that shit down his throat. But neither here nor there. That's really the thing. It's not about the issue. It's about the fact that the child doesn't have the faculties to understand what that issue is. And especially in an age where everything is on video, then, if you bring your kid to a pro-life thing where people are yelling and this happens and that happens, and that's that could potentially be part of who that person is. And that's not who they are yet. You're just projecting that onto them. The evidence of what? The evidence of what, sir?
And what I find baffling is I look at I look at these things that are happening in classrooms in the United States, and it might be more understandable if your outcomes educationally in this country weren't appalling.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? Every minute you spend on woke nonsense is a minute you're not spending on math and science and history.
Yeah, I mean, we already don't have enough time. I mean, I don't understand who created the well, I think she does have some pictures put up in here. Obviously, I cannot show you on here, but Google it. Genderqueer, just the tip. These big nuts. Nick and Andrew, the bluest eye. There's a whole lot of them. But yeah, the idea that we are trying to shove all of this stuff into kids' brains, like just school in general, where 8 hours they're there and they are just constantly taking in information. When you add this stuff, how the hell do you expect them to be good at math and anything nut? It's actually D's big nuts, as in D and D has big nuts. So DEE apostrophe S, big nuts. That's in schools, baby.
That's a big issue to me. And, being born in the Soviet Union, I think I have a very, my kids must be very into academics. Like, I do not play. You got a B-. We're getting... You're
like a Chinese
right.
mom.
Well, yeah.
Well, Wiltos has changed the school system. If you mean going to a different school system, the problem is there's just not there's not enough school systems that you are guaranteed by switching schools to escape this. And if you mean change the way that the school does so like this, absolutely, I agree, that is what should be done, whatever the topic is, because we want children to learn how to think, not just what to think. Zig says, worry about the wrong thing. Yay. Shout out to Yay.
I love the, Tiger Mom, Amy Chua, but I'm not as good at it as she is. But yes, I absolutely think academics is so important, and I want my kids to be challenged. I want things to be hard for them. I don't want them just skating by, which my kids love to do. I want them to work, and even that is an idea that you're not allowed to have anymore. So in places like San Francisco,
hard work is white supremacy.
What?
Zippy says IP rights monopolies make it hard to teach effectively in a system that wants things done a certain way to launder money into the IP rackets. Always comes back to the money, right? Always comes back to the money. Amonifo says school boards don't listen to the parents at all, regardless of where you go, except private schools. It's a big reason private is greater than public in almost every metric. True, But unfortunately, at the very beginning, she was saying, "Yeah, it's gone down to private schools too." And I was saying, you'd think, that you would have more control over what's being taught because you're a paying customer as opposed to just somebody who's in the system. But apparently not. Apparently not. Lars in Rune said, "My kids 20 years ago were told to stop eating tuna in school because net fishing was killing dolphins, and they were upset." I mean, is that true? I mean, I guess, that's I could see things that that's a reasonable cause, but it's about the education of what is really going on. Like, why, if you instead of just stop eating tuna and thinking that's going to fix the issue, then you have to stop eating tuna and figure out how to invent a new net or whatever. And again, it's not about teaching kids how to think, how to develop. It's just giving them the quote unquote answers. I don't know what that is. The NHSHSS? Never heard of it. Opus said private school teachers are coming out for the same woke universities as the public school teachers. Yep, they're coming from the same place. They told who? Well, I mean, dairy's got a lot of fat in it. They definitely were saying that milk was a staple of everybody's diet 20 years ago. You would have a giant glass of milk every morning with breakfast. Otherwise, it was not a real breakfast. And now people are just like, milk here and there. Put a little in my coffee, but that's it. Guys, can we get the likes up, please? We got 8 people in here and just 4 likes. That would help so much. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Unwanted foe in the building with a $5 super chat for Morty. That's right. Every single super chat comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you. And that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Oh my goodness. And Kelly Green comes in and automatically gets a membership. Shout out to Unwanted Foe. Thank you. We'll get another one just for that. Thank you. Oh, blessing me, guys. You guys bless me. Thank you. All right, let me get this banner, and whenever there's a nice super chat, I like to get back into the juice.
Dumbing down their curriculums because it's not fair to have, let's say, an algebra class where the majority is white. And so because it's not fair, they're getting rid of algebra for 7th graders altogether.
What?
And this is insanity. This is crazy. And this, I call it the war on merit, really goes hand in hand with this wokeness because merit. It's all one thing. It's all we do it like this, and this is how we are going to push equity, and this is how it works.
And your assertion is that this comes from the teacher training.
Well, this part of it.
Thank you. Again, Unwanted Foe, very, very, very much appreciate ya. Opus said homeschool and community organized micro schools are the immediate future of quality in the U.S. And absolutely for quality education. Absolutely. I've been talking about how the difference of what homeschooling was back in the day. I mean, even think of how the movie Mean Girls opens up. It opens up with her being compared to all these redneck homeschool, and that's what everybody thought of when you thought of homeschooling. But now, because especially in the last few years, because all this stuff is coming out, that's what they're doing in public schools, that there's these little pods that are developing, and there's teachers who are I'm not going to be part of that. So I am a teacher that you can hire, and maybe 4 or 5 families, 10, however many families, you rent a space and you do school there, and it's the same exact thing, but it's homeschooling. That is the way to do it. Lonto said all new elementary teachers are blue-haired girls. Yup. Shout out again to Unwanted Phone. Zibi says, is it fair to say that merit is important, but to not let it fall into the trap of who you know is all the merit you need? Like current degrees from certain institutions. I mean, I think when we talk about merit, then we have to discuss actual merit. You knowing somebody doesn't necessarily or not necessarily, it doesn't at all speak to your merit. That's what nepotism is when you bypass the meritocratic test and you just get in because somebody else who they were there before and you get a special treatment, whether it's school, whether it's jobs, whether it's anything else. When we're talking about merit, we're not talking about who do you know. We're talking about how well can you do the thing. Whatever the thing is, you have to be this good. You must be this tall to ride the ride. If you are not that good, then you are not good enough. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter who your mom is. It doesn't matter, where you went to school. You have to be able to do the thing that we need you to do.
Yes, but it has gripped so many different facets of our society. Schools is just one chapter of the book because so many other ways that wokeness has woven itself into our world. Again, I don't know that things are as bad in the UK yet. When I listen to you, I think that your universities for sure are also captured. But I don't know that the rest of your society has been taken over quite as much as ours has.
That's interesting. That's interesting because I always thought it was worse. Just the whole European thing and the lack of a First Amendment like we have. I assumed it was worse. And there are definitely certain places where the notion of what we'd say wokeness in general is definitely there. But maybe society at large, they still have the loud minorities of people who go by this stuff. But maybe in the UK, society at large isn't buying into it as much as it's just taken over everything in America. Where were we? Do we get this? Yes, our current market and systems of governance is awash in nepotism. Yep. Lars and Rune said the blue and pink hair immediately give these people away.
Bingo!
Yep. You know what they are going to think about at least 5 things, if not 20, by the color of their hair.
And so another example, and the one that I find just absolutely scariest in the book, like I think schools, kids, you can, education, you could sort of still reverse, you can do stuff at home, you can build a block. But the scariest chapter for me is the medical chapter, where our medical system has been entirely captured by this woke virus.
Like everything else. That's what, when we say everything, this has gotten its tentacles into everything, every aspect, every institution that we have. It is everything. It is everything. And as much as you guys are sick of, hearing it and talking about it, I'm sick of talking about it too. But it's still there. It's still there. So if we shut up, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. Zig says, trying to be the wokest woke whoever spoke. Ooh, bars. There you go. Get a beat behind that.
And so, for example, every year there's like a conference where the best doctors who deal with premature birth babies get together and they talk about it, and you have like the 4 absolute best who tell you what happened in the last year, because things are always changing and improving in the field. And so they recently had this conference, or in about a year and a half ago, maybe, and they realized.
So before she goes on to that, he says, people are quick to dismiss capitalism, but it took us away from kings and nobles and serfdom. Facts. The monopolies and nepotism and corruption is the problem. Don't forget the government is a monopoly too. Yep, monopoly on violence, for sure. For sure. All right, let's see what she's saying here.
And improving in the field. And so they recently had this conference, or in about a year and a half ago, maybe, and they realized that the 4 best doctors in this field are white men, and you can't have that. So now they're going to introduce women and make sure that the ethnicity spread is wider on the stage. But so now you no longer have the best doctors. You have good doctors, maybe, but you're looking for other things other than best. And that is so scary. And then in order to get into medical schools, you need to write an essay on how you're going to promote diversity and the rest in your practice.
What? I knew that it had, like I just said, that wokeness had got into everything, but I didn't know that they were. My mind is blown that you have to say that you're going to push this instead of just help people not die, prescribe people the medicine that they actually need. You have to push an ideology.
Jesus fucking Christ!
And it's terrifying. To me, that really takes away the ability of a doctor to
I said, shit, me too. I really need to go.
say what they want to say, investigate what they need to investigate, and really not feel like they are, have to conform to some ideas.
It's such a good point, because with a doctor, you don't want them thinking about any of this nonsense.
Exactly.
You just want them to treat you. That's it.
Yes!
Right. And the gender thing comes up in the medical thing too, where the doctor has to pretend that they don't know what gender you are for real. And they have to.
So, what are you?
What?
It's like, bro, you could, whatever. Lilto said he's trying to be a doctor. Word up. We need more doctors who are not going to, push that BS. So I am cheering for you.
Give you tests that don't apply to you because you say that you're this gender and your birth sex is something different. We also keep coming across that, and so it just, every minute that is spent on this, people are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to lead to death. We might not know it, we might not see it, but
it already has. It already has. The self-deletion rate among these people is through the roof. That's part of the reason that they try to use is the people will have a litany of issues. They'll be messed up, and the transitioning is sold as the cure for everything. And it's not until you go through all this stuff and you're in transition, so it hasn't been fixed yet. Then once you've transformed, only then can you realize, well, that wasn't actually the problem. I'm just depressed, or I'm just unhappy with who I am, or I lived in a terrible environment, or whatever else. But nope, they just slap the gender affirming care on everything.
it is going to happen.
And of course, because a woman having a heart attack is very different to a male having a heart attack.
Absolutely.
And the dosage that you have to give and all the rest of it. And a heart attack's a perfect example, because someone's having a heart attack, you don't have a lot of time to then go, oh, I wonder what this person with a vagina identifies as.
That's exactly it. And that kind of thing is really terrifying. So my co-author is the homeschooling mom of 6. I have 3 kids. I have 2 in public, 1 in private school. And she homeschools her children. She pre-reads the books. She doesn't let them watch any modern television or YouTube or anything. I'm much more permissive. And for me, we kind of lay down the foundation at home. We really talk about a lot of different things that we wish we didn't have to be talking about.
Talking about a lot of things that we wish we didn't have to be talking about. But we have to talk about them. We have to. Yeah, as we said, kind of like the death pods in Canada. The cure for many things is death. MAID, as I call it. Medical, Medical assistance in dying. MAID. They've prescribed death. I did a video on this last week. They prescribed death to one guy who was too poor. And one guy who I think he was he couldn't get a job. I forget what the other one. Well, yeah, there was one. It was just like I'm not very happy, but I have this this place, and I'm doing my thing. He couldn't afford rent anymore. He's too poor. So he's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go die. And doctor signs right off. So Will tells us that's what we need you for. We need you to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't continue. Opus says, my primary care doctor sold his private practice, and now it's impossible to find a primary care doctor. If you can find one. They are part of some giant institutions. You won't even see them. The medical industrial complex is a thing too. Zig says doctors just trying to sell products at the end of the day. Exactly. It's all business. It's always about the money. Always.
On a lot of different levels. But she'll say that no matter how much she opts out of culture, she can't opt out of her pediatrician's office. And so no matter how much you want to pull your kids from this insanity, you have to go to the doctor sometimes. And so you might not be interested in woke, but woke is interested in you.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to come back to that. You might not be interested in woke, but woke is interested in you. This is why you cannot comply your way out of tyranny. You cannot just go along to get along. You cannot just, yesterday we had Team Floppy Ears. Shout out to Chad. We had him on, and I don't blame him at all, and this is no shade towards him, but I know that he's got some very strong cultural and political opinions, and he wasn't very comfortable talking about them. I'm gonna get them out of him. Don't you worry. If you missed that, definitely check out the video that I put out yesterday. But people are afraid. People have shit to lose. And the more you just try to, weasel through and get along, and it's just going to get more and more and more and more narrow until you reach a point that is untenable. And unquestionably, that point is going to be way worse than where it is right now. People just wishing it's going to go away. It's not. Zippy says, yes, really. Just take it off the law books that people can help each other in self-deletion. Government does not need to help you die. I mean, it already does, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it's crazy. That's so crazy to me. I get that the argument that, people are going to do it anyway, but that's not a good argument because people are going to murder other people anyway, too. That doesn't mean we should legalize murder. That would be crazy. But we did. Well, not we, but Canada, they did. They literally did. Unwanted Foe says, how do you include everyone in everything? It's only possible if you lower every standard in everything. It's absurd how far this could cripple society. Woke is a trap. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that is why, again, even though this may not be anything groundbreaking that you never heard before, but we have to continue, just like when you go to church every week. It's not like you haven't heard the stories, but you go because it instills these values in you and it keeps it fresh in your mind, and it applies to, how is this relevant to today, what's going on, and how is it going to apply to what I don't yet know is going to happen tomorrow. That's why we need to stay strong. Zippy says, you may not be interested in socialist communion, comrade, but the communism. Yes, you may not be interested in socialist communism, comrade, but socialist communism is interested in you, comrade. There we go. We got it. Yeah. Shout out to the Discord members. We watched everything everywhere all at once in the voice channel last night. Very awesome movie. I'd seen it before, but if you haven't seen it, you definitely should. And with that being said, you should definitely join the Indian Jesus Discord party where the party never ends. That's right, 24/7 we are in there having conversations, and after every single live stream we go in there for a live panel discussion where we don't have to worry about YouTube censors, and you're not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me and everybody else having a fantastic conversation. It's always fun. Come and join us.
And how does this play out against what I think is a very good system? Again, Dave and I talked about this, the federal system, where you can do what you've done, which is if you don't like what's happening in the jurisdiction that you live in, you can move somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, are you able in this country as an American to go, well, I don't like this, I am going to move to wherever, and there I can vote for my school district or whatever to be the way that I want. Is that still possible, or is this like you can't escape it?
Yes, that is still possible.
And maybe the only way is for people, this idea of a national divorce. To do it officially is going to it's just such a huge undertaking. But that doesn't mean that naturally, organically, people can't start to group themselves amongst each other if this ideological thing is the biggest divide, then certain places will be taken over by one ideology and other places will be taken over by another ideology. You just have to move. I know it's a lot. Moving is a lot. It's expensive. It's stressful. And especially right now. But again, it wouldn't be if you had moved 5 years ago when we knew this stuff was coming down the pipe, it would have been fine. But you thought, we'll just eke it out. It's probably not going to be that bad. And look where that got us. So it's not about what's easy and what's convenient. It's about what do you want to happen? What do you want to happen? If you want to live in a place where people who live around you think like you, then you either have to run for office and make it that way, or move. You gotta move. It's expensive. It's tough. You might have to get a shitty job for a while. You might have to, cancel Netflix for however long. But what do you really care about? What do you really care about? Zibby said, ideologies have already taken over random places. Yeah, that's what I was saying at the beginning, is that everything has been taken over. Church edits things heavily to mess with people's sense of self, diluting a personal connection with God. So you defer to the church and not your gut. Well, yeah, that's a whole issue with that, with religion in general. But the idea is that if you are a Christian and you want to, keep your Christianity at the front of your mind, at the forefront of who you are, then going to church is a big way to do that. If you're not, then you're not gonna, you still might believe, and I think this is where most Christians fall. They have a belief, but they don't really do anything with it, and so it's just a matter of taking a position to a question. It's not really about a background structure for your life. You know what I mean? And it's just that's the problem. That's why we need this American structure that is not the church and it's not the government, but it's the people, our structure. That is what we need to, go and talk about every week and meet up with other people in that same mindset. But like we were saying, yes, religion may be better than the atheistic nihilism that a lot of people have on the left, but that doesn't mean it's the best thing.
Some ways, but the medical thing, for example, that's a national accreditation society. So it's not a local thing. You can't move to Florida. You just might find more doctors who don't subscribe to this kind of thing and who will do things, in a normal way, even though they've been taught to do it in an abnormal way. You might find more of them in places like Florida, but they have been accredited by the same licensing groups that push this. So
who said that earlier? Where was it? Somebody was saying, the private school teachers, the university teachers, they're all coming from the same places. Yeah, Opus had it. Private school teachers are coming out of the same woke universities as the public school teachers. It's all, you can't escape it because we've let it get this far. It is now ever looming over us. That's why the fight is so difficult and tedious. If we were, I'll just speak for myself. If I understood how far this was going to go, then the moment I saw it coming, I would have, freaked out and be like, okay, we have to do this. We got to start a channel. We got to make sure we have a community of people. We got to do all this stuff. But I didn't. And now we're deep down this slippery slope. And I'm trying. I feel like I'm doing kind of a good job, right? But it's already so bad that it's such an uphill battle. Well, so it's rocking for China out here. All right. So China got it down with the Confucians. Yeah, I mean, shout out to Confucius, but that's not really too much of their political standing in the world today, is it? Zippy says, you mean, I think it's called community. Commune with the community to fight the corruption. Exactly. We need a space both physically and theoretically in society. With that idea has to have space to manifest. to commune with the community to fight corruption.
And it's happening on such
Fair
a
enough, okay.
wide level that it's
Fair
tough to
enough.
find rational, sane doctors. And you know, like even in Florida, we sort of have like a whisper network. Like, is your doctor normal? Can I have him? Like, and that's how you find your MD even here.
And I know you left the Soviet Union at a fairly young age.
Actually, before they move on from that, what should you actually let's do this.
Whisper network. Like, is your doctor normal? Can I have him? Like, and that's how you find your MD even here.
And so the fact that exists is the white pill that keeps me going through all of this stuff, is that there are people like us out there. As far as the wokeness has traveled, there are people like us out there. And there's more of us than there are of them. We just got to show up. That's all we have to do, and we win. Zimby says, big business has our community so torn up and scattered, it's made it harder to commune with the community. To people close by, to part of the people. Thus we scatter in the winds to find a place. Yeah, and again, if you have religion, then you can lean on that. That's fine-ish. But what about everybody else who doesn't have those beliefs and still wants to be a good person, still wants to be part of the community, still wants to be part of the American experience, engage with American traditions and Americans? We don't have that. We don't have that. And the church religion itself is simply not expansive enough to encompass that. You see how like the more laid back churches kind of have gone really far away from what is actually in the Bible. And they're just very accepting of everything. They don't believe in hell. You can be gay. Women can be pastors and all this stuff. And I'm not saying any of that stuff is good or bad. I'm saying that in the Bible, it says,
Oh, hell no.
and they're just like, I mean, you know, whenever you like. And I appreciate that they want to be more accepting of people. That's what Jesus would do, right? But unfortunately, it just tears down it waters down the message. I say F all churches, but I'm with you on that one.
And I know you left the Soviet Union at a fairly young age, younger. I think you said you were 2.
Yeah.
I was about 11 or 12. But I imagine you still know, you're familiar with the idea of living in a society as we would have done it.
Live in a
I certainly
society
did, where your parents had to fight the authorities to prevent you from being indoctrinated into an ideology that they thought was wrong or evil, frankly. Right? Do you feel that, look, whenever you make any comparison with anything, people are like, no, you know, but you know what I mean? Do you think we're sort of operating in a similar environment now, where if you don't agree with these ideas, you have to work so hard at home as a parent just to prevent the children from being basically ruined by the school that they end up going to?
Yeah, that's you know, it is a strong comparison, but it's not off. If we're thinking about the Soviet mindset and the how the government operated in you know, whatever period that was, the 70s, 80s, I don't know, you know what I mean. But if Soviet Russia did this and now we're doing similar things, it's not wrong to make that comparison. So we just ended the poll here. Did Florida hold a book burning? Now, I don't know what what, one of you, two of you? We had 66% say no and 33% said yes. I'm very curious. Who said yes? Why do you think that there was a book burning? Let's put it, let me put it out there like that. I'll throw that out there. If somebody has an answer, then we'll come back to it. Otherwise, I'll just explain my position on it.
So we open with a history chapter in Stolen Youth because there are a lot of parallels to what's happening right now. And I don't know about you, but my whole life, people have said like, oh, doesn't this feel like the Soviet Union? And I would be like, no, not at all. Does not even comparable. Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, fair enough. Zippy says, get with like-minded people. You have to network. You have to plan. It's hard to do because you have to do it via a more neutral middle ground most can respect. Yeah, I mean, the understanding of how to network means that you can't necessarily be, your full self turned up to 100 right when you meet somebody. You have to be able to kind of feel things out. And then as you get to know people, then they're going to be more comfortable with you. You're going to be more comfortable with them. And you can, you can be more authentic about what you're talking about. But you're absolutely right. You have to build up that rapport with people. If you're just out there yelling like it's just Twitter and you're just out on the corner yelling at somebody, that's not going to do anything. So did those of you who say no just because okay. So actually the question was based on the Ron DeSantis clearing out all of the school libraries to check every single book. And it was because of the books like Genderqueer, Just the Tip, the GABCs, The Bluest Eye, all of these books that had explicit smut that were in the school libraries and sometimes in the curriculum itself. And it's not that you can't buy these books. They just wanted them out of school. In the same way, you're not allowed to have a Playboy in school. You shouldn't be able to have Genderqueer either. But all the liberals saw that DeSantis was doing. I don't know if it was an executive order or whatever, but every single book in a school in Florida had to be checked, and I think that's a great thing. But a lot of liberals didn't know what was going on and called it a book burning. So I was curious what you guys were thinking with that. All right, let's see where we are here.
This feel like the Soviet Union? And I would be like, no, not at all. That's not even comparable. Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, so I thought she would say yes, but hey. Will Toe says, I want to know how Just the Tip got in. I mean, pause. Unwanted foes. So did they even burn anything then? Nope. Just said you're not allowed to have this extremely explicit stuff in schools. You can go home and show it to your child if you want to do that. I wouldn't suggest it. But that's all. That is all. We cannot have pornographic material in schools. That's it. And they called it a book burning. Zippy says, community picnic. Everyone pays $5 for a plate. Have a speaker speak to the middle ground issues. Do it like church minus the dogma and the preaching. I would say before you even get to speaking on the middle ground, first you just have to get people physically together. I would say just community picnic, $5 for a plate and a band. That is the start. Because remember, you can't go in immediately talking about the issues. You have to build that rapport with people. So the county fair. You remember when that was a thing? The county fair. I mean, there used to be a carnival that would come around every summer, and people would go. But it's in certain it's still like that in certain communities. But it used to be that a county fair like that was exactly what we're talking about. Something for everybody to come together, and everybody can agree on having fun. We don't have to always be talking about the issues that are going on. We don't always have to be trying to convince people of something. We can just be people. We can just enjoy other people's company. And then we start talking about, okay, what do we think about this? What do we think about that? And then even the community might split into people who are like, okay, we want to do it this way. But you have groups. And it's not about being dogmatic tribes. It's about just understanding who people are and where do you fit in your community. Hey, we got Nick in the building. Welcome to the party, brother. Said, hello, everyone. Doctors told me my back pain was in my head when they couldn't find the problem. Third MRI showed years of stress factors on my spine, T6 through 9. I lost over an inch in height before 30.
What?
That is crazy, man. I'm sorry that you went through all that, but at least you're still taller than me, right? Welcome to the party, brother. Lars Maroon said, oh, you mean why leftists are crying about DeSantis banning books? Yup. But only banning them from school, not banning them from circulation or anything. Unwanted foes. So it's just fear-mongering in order to expose children to P-Hub. Yep. That's exactly what it is. This is the G word that we were saying before. That's why it is exactly that. Because first we're talking about just drag queen story hour. And there's nothing inherent, again, in a vacuum. Somebody dressing up in fantastical stuff and reading a book to a child is not inherently in and of itself either bad or going to lead to this. But you start there. And then, you have the drag queen story hour, and she's going to do a little bit of twerking. Now you have one where there's still only a little bit of twerking, but now she's wearing a thong. Then then you have the next one, the kids get involved. Do you want to learn how to twerk? Grooming. That is how it works. So we said the county fair is too dangerous these days. The lawyers would have a field day. And, that's another part of the lack of culture, is that people don't care about their community. So if something happened at the county fair, then the first thought is, oh, I'm going to get a payday. You're exactly right. Zippy said, that said, games and tickets and stuff is not hard to do. It's not. It's really not. It's just, it just takes people who care. And people just don't care. How do you make them care? You show them exactly how it affects their life. And so this is why I think the culture war issues are so very, very important, because so many people don't care. They don't care, and we have to get them to care, but they're not going to care if you're talking about, some esoteric idea of the economy. But you talk about your kids getting a dick to the face via book. Now you got their attention. Hey, we got Division Plus in the building. Welcome to the party. Been a while. Good to see. I'm getting better at chess, man. You got to come back in to play. We've been doing well. What does Division Plus say? Wait, what's going on with that in churches? Well, not in churches, schools. They there's the books like Genderqueer, Just the Tip, These Big Nuts, The Gay BCs, The Bluest Eye. You can Google any of these books. These are real books that are extremely sexually explicit, that have been found in either the school library at elementary schools or within the curriculum, where it's not just there, but it's assigned. Exactly. And go back to the community. People have to care, and then people have to plan. You're not going to plan to get together with the community if you don't care about your community. And you're not going to care about your community if you don't know anybody and you don't understand what is going on. And that's what we're doing here, guys. That is what we don't.
But the last 3 years, the COVID years, have really felt Soviet, and in a lot of ways, neighbors informing on each other. You're not allowed to say certain things. You must word things in a certain way. The spectacle of it, like the Black Lives Matter and like the defund police in the U.S., like it wasn't enough to say it. You had to put the sign in the window. You had to really say it.
And even that is an example of the grooming thing. That you start by just saying like, okay, yeah, we're allowing this to happen. Then you have to verbally say, oh, we are with the trans community. Now it's not just enough to say, you have to put rainbows up everywhere. It's grooming people. There's no other way to explain it.
So I see a lot of parallels. And so the difference is that my parents would have worried about getting into real trouble if they had tried to tell me the truth. I tell the story of Pavlik in the book, and my mom still doesn't.
Pavlik Morozov.
Right, yes, yeah. And he was
who dat?
He had told. We don't know which part of the story is true. Is what I was going to say about Pavlik. My mom does not know which part of that story is true. We don't really know.
It doesn't matter which part of the story is true. What matters is this was a story that was held up. This guy was a hero. That's what matters.
So he was a hero.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Nick. I mean, that's another thing about the fractured society, is that people don't people don't feel like they're part of anything, and so they feel this wall around them, and they can't feel comfortable laughing at themselves. And that's you can't take everything. There's certain things that we have to take very seriously. But as we were just saying, that a kid thinking that they have to take care of everything in the world is going to be very stressful. Even as an adult, you can't fix the world. You can't fix the world. So you need that community. Oh, Division hasn't played chess in a while. All right, I might have a chance. Definitely come through the after party. Zippy says, and thus why people differ rights and freedoms to governments in the hope governments will care more than the people. The government will save you and work for Soviet Russia. Yep. Daddy government, how can the government fix my life? They make you feel helpless so that you depend on them. That is not the case. You are good enough with who you are and the people around you. You just need a little bit of planning and care.
He had informed on his parents for hoarding grain, and his family
Sorry
had
to
killed him.
interrupt. So so let's just get the background to the story for people who don't know. How old was the kid, and when was this, etc.?
So this is in the Stalin years. He's around 10. He tells, and again, did he tell on his parents, or was he randomly murdered? We have no idea, because everything there is a lie. But the story goes, he informed on his parents who had been hoarding grain, and then his family killed him. And then,
oh my goodness, Division Plus got married. Congratulations. Hey man, that is, I'm very happy for you. Very, very happy for you. I'm obviously glad to see you. Congratulations, and live your life.
in retribution, the state killed his entire family, his mother, his father, his cousins, his everybody gets killed in the story. The grandparents, I mean, everybody.
It's a very Russian story.
Yeah. Everybody dies.
Come on over, sweetie. Come on over. I'm down for anything. If you're serious, definitely let me know, because I would love to do that.
And then you call it a comedy, like Chekhov at the beginning.
Yeah. So he becomes pioneer number one. And this is a story that they use to indoctrinate other children. Look, you can be like Pavlik. You can be a boy hero. And
Who told on his family.
Yeah, who told on his family. Family matters far less than the state does. So here's the perfect example. And you could be a hero or you could be dead in a ditch. Like, which one do you want to be? And so, yeah, I think that a lot of the, I'm not saying again that we're at the same place in the Western world that the Soviet Union was, but we are in danger of it. And I think that a lot of the main thing to me is that in the Soviet Union, in China, in Cambodia, and a lot of places that we write about in the history chapter, they could say we didn't know. And a lot of it is true. They really didn't know. They didn't know what was true. They didn't know what was real. But we can't say that. And part of that is why we wrote the book. We don't want people to say, oh, I had no idea. Well, here's what's happening. You have the idea now.
And Karol, one of the things that I find extraordinarily troubling about the moment that we're in is, I'm not saying we ever got to the goal, because we didn't. But the aspiration for my generation, and probably, people older than me as well, was we were in the West, we're trying to get to a society where your race didn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we got there. There was still
I'm ready.
racist assholes around when I was growing up, and still are. But that was the dream. That was the goal. That was the vision. We got that from Martin Luther King onwards. And it was universally embraced as the way that a multi-ethnic society like the ones that we live in should move forward.
All right. Well, is she in favor of these books being in schools? Because she can come on right up. She can come right up right now. And we can have that conversation. But yeah, I mean, anything you like. And then, maybe you guys tune in together. And then when there's a topic, then you can I can drop the link and you can come right up. See? Problem solving.
And now I think it's fair to say that the woke ideology has the opposite view. Race matters a lot to people. So how do you talk to your kids about that? Like, if all they see from the outside is race really matters, how do you teach them about it? How do you talk to them about it?
I would hope that it comes from before you send your child off to school, you have this relationship with them that is going to be strong enough that when they bring home, some weird math thing that says 2 + 2 = 5, that you can say that, all right, I understand that the school is doing this, and we in this house we feel something different, whatever. I don't know what she's gonna say, but I feel like that's the only way to combat this stuff, because it is so everywhere. It's so ubiquitous that I don't know what, I mean, let's see.
Try to have really honest conversations with them. And that's the thing. Parents are
Mhm.
so awkward and they're so afraid of saying the wrong thing to their own kids. I'm not afraid of that. And neither is my husband. I think we talk to our kids about how much character matters and how
Mhm.
the color of somebody's skin is, irrelevant. And so many different ways that we try to bring home the idea that you're not going to be colorblind. It doesn't mean that you don't see race. Of course you see race, but you treat everybody the same, and you don't, treat anybody differently because of their race in a positive or a negative way.
Remember when that was the liberal perspective? Just treat people based on who they are and not because of their race. End of sentence. Remember then when that made you a liberal? I do. I now it has gone so far beyond that it's the horseshoe. Now the bigotry of low expectations is you have to do this, that, and everything because black people can't, whatever. Like the mentality that goes behind all this is mind-blowing. Thank you, Division Plus.
And I think it's crazy that we've moved away from that. That used to be, it was the gold standard of it. Again, you're right. We didn't get there. I'm not saying that we lived in some like racism-free society. That's ridiculous. But we were heading towards something better, and now we're heading towards something far worse.
What are we heading towards, Karol?
We're heading towards race being the absolute number one most important thing about you. And, what's interesting about that is it's happening to white people too. So it is leading to an increase in like white supremacist groups, etc. If you tell people your race is the most important thing about you, people are going to believe you.
If you tell anybody anything over and over and over and over again, they will begin to believe it. This used to, what was the, I can't think of it, but the story, because remember I talk about how when I was a teen and when I was a teen it was more like the goth and emo thing, but like when I was in middle school, the social contagion thing that all the girls were into was eating disorders. They all thought they were so fat and that they needed to binge and purge. The idea was always that if you tell yourself, or if you hear somebody else tell you you're fat every single day, eventually you're going to believe it. And so when these people are out here saying 2 + 2 = 5 and a man can transform into a female over and over and over and over again, eventually that's going to sink in. Eventually that's going to become what you actually believe. So he said Usain Bolt is a racist too. Oh, wrong one. Good one. Good one. You're on fire tonight, brother. You're on fire.
And so, I like to say to my kids, we're Jewish, so I'm like, I don't know, are we white? Like, who knows at this, today we might be, yesterday we weren't. And
it do be like that. You might be a part of a privileged group today, but by tomorrow, cross your fingers, you might be oppressed. You might be part of your very own oppressed group. And that gives you special privileges in America because that's the American way.
So race really doesn't matter. It's who you are. And I know it's cheesy as that sounds, like that's the message we should be delivering to children.
Yep.
It absolutely should be. And also as well, the discrimination against Asian people, particularly when it comes to colleges.
Terrible.
It's mind-boggling. You can't do this.
Right. And it's spiraling past colleges. So the thing is that there's so many books about the way the colleges have been ideologically captured, but it's happening everywhere now. We have in the U.S. we have these like gifted and talented schools, and they're trying to limit how many Asian kids get to go because there's just too many.
This is what we're saying, that it's reached every single aspect of our lives. So sometimes it might be a little tedious to go back through and, okay, what is this person's take on it? And what, how are we going to use this in our everyday lives? But it's just reinforcing the idea that this stuff is out there. This stuff is being pushed. You might not like wokeness, but wokeness sure likes you.
Many, like the Tiger Moms are doing just too good a job. And it's
shout out to Asian moms.
Interesting, that they used to limit how many Jews could go to different colleges for similar reasons. They still do, but to a lesser extent. But now you won't even see Jewish kids at these GNT schools because priorities have changed. But you will see Russian Jews, and they're pushing the same thing that the Asian parents are. Academics matters a lot, and we expect high things from you, and we want you to work hard. And taking this away from people because they have the wrong skin color, because you didn't get the right mix of skin color, is just absurd.
How have we got to this place where even something? I mean, that to me is nuts. The fact that you literally say to someone, you pass every one of our standards, but you can't come in because you're Asian.
Right. Well, they don't end up saying it to them. So there was a giant scandal in the U.S. A few months ago, like 3 or 4 months ago, where there's a school in Virginia called Thomas Jefferson, and it was like the premier gifted and talented school.
Did you guys hear about this? I didn't hear about this. This is only what? This is from only 10 days ago. And she's saying Thomas Jefferson School. I don't know. Not ringing a bell.
And high Asian population. The principal of several schools didn't tell kids that they had qualified for a national merit scholarship because they were embarrassed that the majority of the kids who had qualified were all Asian, and there just wasn't a good racial mix. So they didn't tell these kids that they were going to get money for college. To me, that should be the huge story even today. It should just be every day. Like, they took away something from kids because they were the wrong race. And it was a story for a few days. The governor passed some rule, Republican governor passed a rule that now you must tell them if they qualified for a national merit scholarship. All
right, so hold up. We got the poll up. Have you ever seen what's in the book Genderqueer? And I'm seeing a lot of no's. So what we're gonna do here is take a quick little detour. I think this is the right one. Yeah, because this is the book here, Genderqueer. This book is gay. Let's see if all right, let's see what this one is.
Hello and welcome. My name is Nicholas, and this is literally graphic.
Fingers crossed. This is on YouTube, so hopefully it's not going to get me taken down. But fingers crossed. I got my finger over that just in case.
And today we are taking a look at the nonfiction memoir comic Genderqueer by Mai Kobabe, originally published in 2019 by Lion Forge. There is very light nudity, about half real and half suggested, with people contorting to cover everything controversial. This is a coming-of-age story, though, so stuff like menstruation and other puberty developments do loom large at times, in case that's something that makes you a bit uncomfortable. I would describe...
it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable, but if I was 7, it might make me feel uncomfortable.
The author-artist person, but that seems to be the...
You don't want to know. You don't want to know, but you have to know. Obviously, they're not going to show any of the super graphic stuff on YouTube, but I'm hoping this is at least going to get us a little bit of an idea. Otherwise, there is going to there's a thing from a kid reading out a page. I believe it's from this book. It might be from These Big Nuts or one of the other books, but it's so graphic.
The point of the book itself. The official description is as follows.
So we got a girl who never cleaned herself after getting periods.
2014, Mai Kobabe, who uses EM.
We got old pads, blood all over.
Ear pronouns, thought that a comic of reading statistics would be the least autobiographical comic E could ever write. At the time, it was the only thing E felt comfortable with strangers knowing about M. Now, Genderqueer is here. All
right, we got to get a reading because this is not giving it. Reading. Genderqueer full board. Let's go.
It was standing room only at the Spring Lake School Board meeting tonight. The board was set to make a decision on a book a parent wanted banned from the library. 13 on Your Side's Nate Belt was at tonight's meeting. He joins us.
Shout out to Nate Belt.
Media Center. And Nate, what happened?
Yeah, Juliet, the meeting tonight was largely centered around the book Gender Queer, which parents say displays explicit sexual imagery alongside its LGBTQ-centered story. Now, while the school board eventually sided with the majority of the parents here who wanted the book to be removed from the library shelf, it didn't stop the meeting from becoming disorderly.
Due to the lack of order, we will end this board meeting.
That's how Monday's Spring Lake School Board meeting came to a close. Tensions were high as one parent gave a presentation for why the book Gender Queer should be removed from the library,
Okay, I found it.
explicit sexual imagery.
I also want to be clear that my objection to some of the content in this book has nothing to do with the LGBTQ plus theme.
As part of the review process, parents
so
in favor of the book were then allowed to give reasons why.
I don't think they're gonna read it, but we have this here. So this is a kid reading to the school board from one of these books. I believe it is Gender Queer, but I don't know for sure.
Hi, my name is Knox Zajac. I'm 11 years old and I go to Wyndham Middle School. I'm a sixth grader. I was
Sixth
in the
grader.
library, and this book was on a stand. I'd like to read you a page. My back.
On a stand, not just buried somewhere. This was on a stand at the front of the library.
Over my hips as I ask if we should take our clothes off.
What?
He's saying yes before I finish my sentence. He's pulling off my t-shirt, laughing when I can't undo my shirt buttons. He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom. We're kissing. Again, we're rolling over. Obviously, you can see where this is going. I don't know if it's because we're feeling especially emotional or just tired, or these past couple of weeks have been too much. But this reminds me so much of the first time we had sex. We were both fucking terrified, and the whole thing was kind of terrible because we didn't know what we were doing. But it was good too, so good.
Is this okay? Is this okay for children?
Because we were a mess of emotions, and we were scared and excited, and everything felt new. So this sort of thing, this sort of feels like that. Nick touches me.
Oh, Nick and Andrew. All
I'm
right.
scared that any minute. Now, this book was at my middle school, and it was on a stand. When I rented it out to show my dad it.
Listen to what bad enough, right? Bad enough talking about bending over your hips and to reach into your pants. Bad enough, right? Bad enough that is on a stand at the front of the library. It gets worse.
The librarian asked if I wanted more and if I wanted a graphic novel version.
A graphic novel version. What is there to be said? What is there to be said? Nick says, what do people consider queer these days? It was just homosexual when I was young. Yeah, I have no idea. Star signs will be genders soon. Lead injections for anyone who wants that in grade schools. Exactly. So that is what we're talking about. That is what we're talking about. I think the father comes up and says stuff here.
Oh boy. So I'm that kid's father.
Okay, good. I was asking for you.
Yeah, I'll take another 3 minutes. So that's my son.
Okay.
11 years old, and went to his library and found that by the entry door of our library, this is the smut that he is finding. All right. I don't care whether it's gay, straight, bisexual, whatever the terms are for.
And exactly, Nick, this is why we are still talking about this stuff. Because number one, you didn't know, right? And as you say, plenty of adults who would be mortified by this, but they just don't know. And so those of us who do know have to continually come back and say, hey, this is going on. Listen to me. Trust me. This is going on. I might be wrong, but at least check it out. Otherwise, they just won't. They just won't. And what he's saying about, it's not whether it's gay or straight or whatever, it's not about that. We don't want Playboy in children's libraries either. Zippy says we are returning to faux science? Like that, I don't know what this says. Like that of the gotten, yeah, I don't know what that is. Sorry, brother.
For all this stuff, doesn't need to be at our school, doesn't need to be at my 11-year-old's library. And then as far as genderqueer, I've got a son in the high school as well. And this is bullshit. We know it, all right? We do not need to be having literature that's showing boys how to suck dick, all right?
Jesus fucking Christ!
I'm very, very frustrated about it, okay? And you may think that schools know the best for our children. You know,
do they though?
Who know the best for our children? The
Parents.
And if you remember this, I was here last year talking about masks, and I even offered you proper usage for a mask, and you said I was bullying. And you know what I would like to say to everybody right now?
Fuck you! He's not gonna say that, but that's what.
Where are we a year later, and what has changed? Why you don't wear your masks right now?
Spoiler alert: it's nothing.
So what has changed in the medical field that is showing you that you don't have to wear masks now? So, like I said, listen to the parents. I can tell you right now, I don't work anymore, and I will be more than happy to focus my time and effort to the security of my child and children in this school. All right, I will.
And children everywhere. Children everywhere. You'll hear a lot from liberals or whoever's supporting this. Why do you care so much? If you don't like it, just don't read it. You don't even have kids. That is the like, for you to not even understand why a person who doesn't have kids would care about the well-being of kids is so telling about your perspective that it's frightening. It's frightening, and it's why we have to keep fighting back. Hey, we got indie film in the building. Emotional damage. Oh, Indie Film with the $2.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Morty's sleeping on my foot warmer. Let's see if we can get him up here. Morty, come. Look, here. Come here. Come on. Morty, come on. Good boy. There you go. Come on. Good job. Yay, there we go. Thank you. Woo! Very, very, very much appreciated. There you go. Just lay down, buddy. Welcome to the party. But yeah, man, I mean, for real, emotional damage. That is what is happening to these children, because they're seeing this stuff way before it's appropriate for them to see it. And I mean, I would argue that it could possibly never be appropriate. But how did it get this far? Nick says, exactly, buddy. We have to know what the problem is, and plenty of people don't have a clue. It's crazy, but we need to address this.
Bingo!
You got it. Yeah, shout out to Positile. We got Positile back. We thought he died, but he just got wifey. He's been stuck on honeymoon mode. You know what I mean?
Will be a thorn in your sides. So I just want you to be aware of what you've woken, okay?
We need more like that.
I'm sure that a lot of you guys are fine and great people and have nothing but the best intentions for our children. But by the fact that this has to take 4 months for a school to get this book out of the library is ridiculous.
And so the original question about, was Florida doing book burning was about that. They saw those books in the school. They didn't like that was the case. They didn't like that these books were there. And so DeSantis said, hold on, slow down. We're going to look at every single book that appears in a school. And we're not going to ban anything that we want kids to see. We just got to double check. And to liberals, that is a book burning. Cry me a river. Shout out to Positile. And Film said it took him 4 months to get it out of the library because they didn't want to get it out of the library. I mean, this is how this stuff works. What they have the institution, they have the establishment on their side. That is why we need to continue fighting.
okay, I guess that's something, but it's not really making. Republican governor passed a rule that now you must tell them what if they qualified for a National Merit Scholarship. Like, okay, I guess that's something, but.
So before we, if you don't remember, if you're just joining us, before we had that little diversion about what is in genderqueer, we were talking with this woman who works at Fox News, the New York Post, and has written a book about this stuff. And they're currently talking about, just the spread of wokeness, and specifically the admission of Asian students in schools.
It's not really making the kind of changes that we should be making.
Well, it's because it's reflecting a much deeper thing that's going on in society, which is the re-racialization of society. And that's where we come back to your point about the war on merit. Why would anyone want to wage a war on merit?
Right, because it's not fair.
We don't have any.
Merit isn't fair.
Merit is not fair.
So what is fair?
What? Fair is everybody having the same outcome.
That's fair.
That's the.
Is it no? Of course not. Of course not. Opus says, well, to be fair, there was a case where a parent in Florida, obviously not acting in good faith, had a book containing some black ladies' speech removed. Some black ladies, like she made a speech and it was in the book and they took it out of the book. Had a book containing some black lady's speech removed. Or they took the book out because it had. I don't know what you mean by this. It wasn't anything critical race. I read it. It was perfectly appropriate for school. And it took out the whole book. But I thought they like representation. I'm very confused about what is even the complaint. What were they saying? Like, what was it? Was it something in the speech maybe that used outdated language or something like that? Because you'd think that they that would be at the front of the store. A black woman? Oh my goodness. You got two right there. You got the blacks and the women. But now sent to the back of the bus because it's all about the transes. Nick says, I feel for anyone who has tried to undo the indoctrination in their kids. Absolutely. Shout out. Zippy said, it's only good when they say it's good. Like the Rippaverse. There you go. There you go. Now what? Book burning because they removed a black lady's speech. Ignore all the smut. Pretty much. Pretty much. Oh, wait. So had a book. They had the book removed. But you're gonna have to explain to me. But exactly what? I understand that this is what happened, but what I don't understand what the complaint was. That there is a black person in a book? That can't possibly be the story. What was the complaint?
Word that they use equity, right? It's not equality. Yeah. Equity is a standardization of outcomes. It's not about how much work you put in. It's everybody comes out the same. I have 3 kids. They could not be more different. I will be shocked if they end up anywhere near the same with outputs. And they're going to have, I'm sure they're all going to do great, but they're going to do great in completely different ways. And if I tried to apply the equity standard to them, like you 3 must all come out virtually the same, it would be a tough haul.
Well, Thomas Sowell makes this point a lot, which is how can you
shout out to Thomas Sowell
in society when you can't expect equity within people who share the same genetic base.
Right.
Well, if you get any more information, definitely let me know, because I don't really understand the context of what you're saying. So I don't know how it applies that there's a book removed for what reason. And so liberal media use that as the book burning headlines. Yeah, they'll semantic obfuscation. They will use whatever words to describe the situation to make you feel exactly how they want you to feel and make you understand the reality of the events the way that they want you to understand, whether that is aligned with reality or not. And usually it's not.
But this is also another thing that reminds me of the Soviet Union. I mean, one of the reasons the Soviet Union collapsed was the terrible productivity that is produced by a system in which you're not rewarded for merit.
Red
And
flag.
the impact of that sort of mindset on a society. I mean, you've talked about doctors, and that's an obvious kind of coalface scenario, but everywhere, if you run a business I mean, we saw it in the UK, you know, with the comedy industry. Mock the Week, which was a huge comedy program in the UK, the MASH Report, which I worked on for a bit.
Hey, we got Dr. Octagon in the building. Welcome to the party. Dr. Octagon says, I'm offended by the word the. Please remove all books with the in them. That's how they think about it. You got it. Spot on, brother. Welcome to the party. Glad to see you.
A bunch of them basically have died. And a big part of the reason is they went uber into sort of left-wing politics instead of doing jokes.
Right.
But also, I think it's objectively a fact that they picked people to work on the show based on their demographic characteristics and not on their talent.
Right.
And those shows don't exist anymore.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want to be picked because I'm a woman.
No.
I would just find that so insulting. I would want to be the best at whatever it is I'm doing. I don't want to be, oh, we gave the woman a job.
Yeah, that's the same argument about affirmative action that you hear a lot, is that a lot of Black people will say, I don't want to be given this position just because of my skin color, because then I'll never know if I was actually good enough. I'll never be able to understand I earned this. Because again, when we talk about merit, race doesn't come into it. Your parents don't come into it. How much money you have doesn't come into it. Well, I mean, depending on the case, but if you're going to get a job, it's about, can you do the thing that we want you to do?
I find that really, insulting. And so again, I have a daughter and 2 sons. I'm teaching them that they all better work and that they have to, produce and be at their very best and not just expect doors to open for them. The sons, forget it. Nobody's opening any doors. But my daughter, I'm thinking, I'm not waiting for somebody to offer her opportunities just because she's a girl. And actually, she turned down an opportunity where she's on a robotics team. They didn't make it to States. And then she was invited to join another robotics team because they needed a girl. And she was like, no, thanks. Like, I don't want to be the girl on your team.
Hey, based. That is based.
What does this do to kids when you effectively say to them, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you're either going to achieve because you come from a certain ethnic background, or you're not going to achieve?
I really think it messes them up, and not just, not just about the merit thing, but just in every way. If you're told that your accident of birth is all that matters about you and things that you had absolutely no control over,
identity politics. That is what she's talking about.
Is what's important. I think, one of the things that I believe why so many teenagers are non-binary now, or switching their gender, I think it's because they don't have any points in the oppression meter, and they want some.
Yep.
So non-binary is a really easy way to get some. You don't even need to change anything.
Yep. All you need to do is call yourself a different thing, give yourself a different name, and now you are like, I'm just saying this with Kareem Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is. No, I didn't see that. And that is, I mean, technically she is a historical figure, but not one that I think the future is going to want to remember. But yeah, the easiest thing in the world, if you're not cool enough, is to just get some cool points by, just saying you're a thing. I'm a Zimzer. You're the same exact person. Do we even blame the child at that point? Do we blame the 12-year-old who just wants to fit in and who isn't cool? And society has created this cheat code, and why everybody is using it? Of course not. I mean, when they get older, we're definitely going to hold them accountable. But as children, the whole point is that they are not accountable. They can't be accountable. They don't have the faculties to do so. Okay, so these people are high on their own farts. Yep. Zuby says, I will open or hold a door for anyone when I am not trying to block the world out.
What?
I have no idea what that means. Historic worst press secretary in living memory. Yep, that's history. That's history. It's gonna definitely go down in the books that she was the worst. The worst. especially coming right off the heels of what was her name, Kaylee McElhaney, whatever her name was. She was on point. She was on point. Love her, hate her, love Trump, hate Trump. She was on point.
You just have everybody call you some new pronouns, and now you're oppressed. Now you get to be part of the club. And I always say that if this was happening when I was a teenager, no doubt in my mind, you guys would have to be calling me some pronoun you've never heard of before. I'd make it up every day. I would have my teacher.
Guys, can you get one more like, please? Just one, just a single like. Thank you so much.
I can control what my teachers call me every day. Every day I can come in and say I'm something else. Sure, I would do it.
Yeah, and
a lot of power.
And that's exactly the point I was just making about, do we even blame the children for getting caught up in this? Because if I had that, again, you damn right I would have been non-binary. You're damn right. I wasn't cool. I'm the short dude. I'm the short, skinny dude. If I could get some attention by just doing nothing different, of course.
And you also think as well, what's going to happen to this generation when they go into the world of work?
Well, we used to think that, and then they went into the world of work, and the world of work conformed to all this nonsense. Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Yep. It's more like, what is the world of work what's gonna happen to them when this new generation who have pronouns that literally we have not heard of yet?
Yeah, and this is the question that is burning in my mind. That when these kids do age up and do become adults, how are they going to fit into society? I was laughing at the millennials who were like just a little bit younger than me, thinking that like, oh, they're in school, thinking that, whatever, and then they're gonna hit the real world, and then it's gonna hit them like like a brick wall. Millennials changed everything, but I do have hope. I do have hope for Gen Z. We just don't know yet. Hey, we got RM in the building. Welcome to the party. Twinks the movies in the building. Welcome. Thank you. Glad you are here. Unwanted Foe said, I'm high as fuck, so it's been making me laugh my ass off. Glad I can be entertaining.
Goes to work. So that's the problem, is that this capture has happened on so many different levels that I think that these people are running the place. What's interesting is, and we point this out a lot in the book, and really I know I'm a huge bummer usually, but this is like my real optimistic point, is that they're still a real minority. They're just really loud, and they're able to assert their dominance, and
they are able to form a message that doesn't even have to have any bearing in reality. It just has to be catchy. As long as you come up with something catchy to package whatever crazy idea you have, people will eat it up.
And they're able to push the kind of conformity that they require in order for this to work. If people en masse said no, if the Bill Maher's and the other liberals who know that this is crazy would be more vocal in pushing back, this could end tomorrow. But people are not brave. They're afraid. They don't want to be called out. They don't want to be ostracized or shunned or called names.
And I mean, Zippy, you bring up a good point about catchy like religion and the fact of fitting in. You can be a bad person, but as long as you say you believe in God and you believe in Christ, then you have a home. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing to have. I think everybody should be able to have a place in the world, if we want to put it that way. But when you get shoved into that, now you're thinking about that dogmatically, and like this is the only answer. The same way that these kids think about transing themselves. Thank you for the likes, guys. I do appreciate it. Opus said it's not even about being catchy. If you structure your arguments as the caring position, most people will buy in without even thinking about it logically. That is very true. And that's way better than so not catchy, but empathetic. If it comes in an empathetic package, like, well, I'm a good person because of this, and if you don't agree, you're a bad person. They are very, 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 very good at that. over and over and over and over with this message and that thing. And that's the downside to them all being brain dead lemmings, is that whenever the new thing comes along, like, oh, that's a good thing. I like good thing. You like bad thing? You're a bad person. I mean, come on. Hey, we got Xander Crew in the building. Welcome to the party. Good to see you, brother. Insidious, it definitely is. Absolutely. Dr. Octagon says, minority or majority, everyone complains.
Bingo!
Well, some people have reasons to complain, and some people don't. I mean, everybody has the right to complain about whatever the hell they want, but there's people who have shit to complain about, and then there's people who don't. You know what I mean? Dr. Octagon goes on, Christians still the majority and cry about everything. Yep. Thanks. So piece of religion is not inherently bad. I disagree, but we'll continue. It's just trying to do better. But through dogma, it strays from being better. Okay. Replace the word religion in this sentence with trans ideology. Trans ideology isn't inherently bad. It's just trying to do better. But through dogma, it strays away from being better. True. Which is why, on both sides, dogmatic thinking is bad. Just flat out bad. Stay skeptical. Question everything. And then, when you do, you'll have more of a reason to have confidence in the things that you actually do believe. Xander Cruz says, all brainwashing, whether mass blind religion or mass leftist cult thought, it all relies on no questioning and no logic.
Bingo!
But, Xander says, I'd rather be ruled by a true Christian than a leftist cultist. 1,000, 10,000% over and over and over. Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed. That being said, I'd rather we didn't have to have this dichotomy of religion or bad. But you know, that's the world we live in.
And so they don't. And you know, I think that's going to be step one.
Anarchy.
Well, one of
there we go.
Elements of the book is.
So, Dr. Agon is saying, I'd like to see less literalism. What do you mean by literalism? Because I think I know what you mean, but I don't hear people use that a lot. So I'm curious what exactly you mean by that. Sanders says that can't happen without our lower thinking human minds. We need to all, oh, the anarchy thing. Yeah, that's never going to work. But I mean, we can get as close. Remember, we talk about having ideals. The ideal is that there is no ruler and we're all just good people on our own. That's idealistic. That's not going to happen. But we should, if we know that that's the ideal, then we should try to get as close to that as we possibly can. And if we're here and we're trying to get to here and we end up here, well, here is better than here. So we should at least have our sights set on the proper goals. Zippy says, catch-22. Trans ideology cannot be trans ideology without dogma. Religion can be religion without dogma. Or do you think that's a stretch? I think that's a stretch. I mean, which religion is not dogmatic? Here's the trick. Zippy says, religion is not the only way to do better. Exactly. Oh, that's biblical literalism. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the people who are like young earth creationists. That stuff blows my mind. I don't know how you could think that is a thing. It's incredible to me. It's mind-blowing. But dogma will do that. Dogma will do that. When you believe that book is divine, that God, the creator of the universe, came down and sent his message to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, whatever, there's no reason for you to not take it literally. It would be horrible for you to think that that's actually what God said. And you'd be like, So it makes sense, but it's bad. It's bad. Xander Cruz says, ideals are good. You're right. Indeed. Something to strive to, even though we won't reach it. And then that's okay. We don't have to be perfect beings. We don't have to, but we can try to be as good as we can. We can try to be our best selves. And in order to do that, again, we have to have the goal in mind. Indie Film said, how about faith can be faith without dogma? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, faith is not dogma. Faith is just a belief, a position that you hold without sufficient evidence. So, like, you could have faith that there is a prime rib sitting on my desk in my room right now, or you could have faith that I'm lying about that. In either case, it's not dogmatic, because if you were to get more information, you'd be able to update that information. So that's a good one. There you go. Shout out to Indie Film. Opus says religion can exist without dogma because there arguably isn't enough physical proof to prove any of them. Exactly. That's why it has to be dogmatic, because they don't actually have the stuff. If they had the stuff, then it wouldn't be faith in religion. It would just be science. Science started out as religion. Science and religion were once the same thing. It was our best. It was our best understanding of the physical world. But then we learned more. Just like whatever you believe about the prime rib on my desk, whether you believe it's there, whether you believe I lied, you can get more information and have a better understanding than you do right now. Religion doesn't allow that. Well said, anyone. Zippy said, God slapped his dick on the earth, and so we are. Opus said, if there was, it wouldn't be a religion, it would be reality. Exactly. K-pop is well, do they have ideological things? 'Cause K-pop can definitely be a religion. But religion and ideology and dogma, they are three different words and they're three different things, and they're very closely related. But I think what you mean to say is K-pop is religion. But I could be wrong. I don't know jack shit about K-pop, and they might have ideals that they say you have to follow. Xander says to Zippy, if the theories turn out true, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Oh yeah, definitely not in a place where, if it is there, not in a place where he can get it. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Oh, Schrodinger's steak. That's a good one. That is funny. Dr. Akagon says both left and right has extremes that I can't bother to accept. Well, you sound like a smart individual then. Zippy says take the dogma out of religion and it's just another Boy Scouts troop. I mean, not really. There's a lot of very big and universal values that are espoused in a religion, regardless of the religion, that can be very important. And again, we're talking about the packaging of these things. And so it's much easier to give somebody a book and be like, okay, this is what you need, instead of individually having to pick out each value and think about, okay, in this position, what would be the right thing to do? In this situation, what should I do? It's just easier. People are lazy. They don't care. And so they just go for the easy answer. Sanders says the problem with science without religion, morality, without religion or morality, it is that science can go dark real quick. And that is where we are going with science soon. Just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. And I think the fact that we are so stuck in this this world where religion is an acceptable thing to have, that is really going to hurt us when it comes to figuring out how to deal with the future. Dr. Octagon says, I think Hawaii was a push for cuteness over there. I have no idea I don't know anything about K-pop. I apologize. Xander said science should be the ideal, but the thing about human beings is they tend to taint their work with values, and sometimes those values are hijacked. Example, modern doctors and surgeons who can physically make men look like women when they don't realize the horrific path of human mutilation they are going down. Spot on, Xander. As always, spot on. And in order to have the understanding of what should we do when this, when the singularity and AI is taken, we have to come together, we have to commune and discuss these things and understand. And so if we're stuck worrying about apologizing for inconsistencies in the Bible, in the same way that she was the woman who was talking about, there's only so many hours in a school day, and if you're teaching genderqueer, then you're not teaching math and history. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If society is so hung up on what we should do about sticking to religion instead of following what is actually going to happen, it's not going to it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. Well said, Sandra. Zippy said it would be nice if the Bible came with a neutral contextual history. Yeah, that would be nice. K-pop is like any other group of hot boy or girl bands. It's all crazy fandom. Yeah, so then you could say that is religion, and that the religion or the dogmatic aspect of that would be that K-pop is good, or that this group is better than that group, or whatever. But again, words are important. Dr. Octagon says the government put a 6-month hold on AI progress. It's not going to work. I mean, we're at that point where it's like, it might kind of just do its own thing. I don't know. That's it. It's definitely scary. But like, what does that even mean? A 6-month hold? Like, people are working on stuff. And they just be like, no, don't work on that. Would it not be better to understand how the AI is going to progress? Interesting question. Would it be better to stop? Because, I mean, AI is already here. So the takeover is inevitable. So that being said, is it better that we are halting, the progression of the actual technology when it's inevitable? Is it better to do that? Or is it better to really hammer down on it and figure out as much as we can? Tough questions. Xander said, the reality is that many people will not survive the technological advancements we will make as a people, because they will go against their own biology, and corporations will just profit off of it. Example, detransitioners who are now sterile and muted and castrated, and pharma for life, pharma customers for life, whether they transition or detransition. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. From what I know, that's K-pop. Opa said, you think Google and Microsoft are going to stop development? That's what I'm saying. Like, what does that even mean? Zippy said, well, government is trying to empower the monopolies via the six. Okay. So it's Google and Microsoft get to work on it, but everybody else isn't allowed to. Sarah said, we don't master AI, China and Saudi Arabia will destroy us. Facts. Dr. Garganson, I think it was I think it was quantum computer that had just started up. Oh, AI is the new nuke. AI is the new nuke. This is the new arms race. Is for who can control the AI better. Well said, friend.
The idea of erasing innocence. And the thing that I see that makes me want to get the flamethrower out, frankly, is...
That's a metaphor, by the way.
No, it's fucking literal. I want to get the flames. When I see a drag queen in a G-string twerking in front of kids, I want to get the flamethrower out.
Yeah, I get that, because, this conversation started with drag queens story hour at your local library. And, it's interesting because I think that a lot of parents at the time were like, oh, what's the big deal? It's like a clown reading to your kids. Like, who cares? And then it spiraled into this G-string thing where when's the last time you saw them read a book to kids? Like this drag queen story hour has turned into drag queen twerking hour, and we're supposed to just accept it. And there's so many examples like that where the slippery slope is...
Yep, it's a slippery slope, and it's exactly what we're talking about with the G-rooming word. That's how it starts with just, it's just like a clown reading to my kids. That's all. But because they had the idea the whole time to bring us here, the whole time the idea was to bring us here and further, it is grooming. It is grooming. That was a good episode, definitely. Dr. Octagon says, but this is a common fear in humans. When anything new comes about, when anything new comes about, there was an outrage on books when they started mass production of them. Yep, they thought people would forget things if we started writing them down. But I mean, AI is scary. AI is definitely like a whole nother level, because that's really what we're talking about. The difference of having written language and having written language. That's a very different world. Just like the world without the internet and the world with the internet, a very different world. There's levels to this, and AI is going to be the next one that is that big. You know, if you're afraid of electric cars just because they're something new, well, okay, I can see why that's just a little fear of the unknown. But I think the issue really is what we do know and what we don't know that we don't know. We do know that it can be very powerful. We don't know how powerful it actually can be. We don't know how it can manifest. And so that is what makes it specifically scary about AI. Zippy said, the new dawn of a new tech. The world of logistics is advancing like when industrial took off. Yep, exactly. Same page, brother. Same page. Xander says, as a gay guy who is in, is that Indiana? Or yeah, it would be, right? As a gay guy who's in the all right, as a gay guy who's in the belly of the beast, I can say there are chill drag queens who are just clown performers for adults, and there are pedos who are using drag and using the gay community to step into mass acceptance. And this is why we need to separate. We need to separate the people who are just, doing a thing, the people who just happen to have a different sexual orientation, people who just happen to have gender dysphoria and want to present in a certain way, and the pedos who are using all that to get mass acceptance. That's what this is all about. It's not about hating anybody. It's not about discrimination. It's not about inclusive. It's not. It's about the innocence of children. The innocence of children. Oh, yeah. And this is an emotional attack, Xander goes on. It's an emotional attack because gay people will rush to defend blindly without realizing they're being used to normalize insanity. So I keep telling you guys, now we got a gay guy here saying exactly what I'm saying. And agreed. Everyone is on point. Shout out to all you guys. Everyone's on point tonight. And you all still managed to be funny at the same time. What a cool group you guys are a cool group. That is definitely a fact. So, and I greatly appreciate you guys being here. I mean, I'm having a fucking ball, despite the fact that we're talking about probably the worst thing that has happened society-wise in the last who knows how long. We can still make it fun. We still partying, baby. We still partying. Senator says, let's not forget, pedos have also used the Catholic Church to get to kids. And it has worked very, very well for them. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That is the issue with dogma. Dr. Octagon asks, is still trans 1% of the... Is trans still 1% of the LGBT 5%? I don't understand the question. Can you rephrase that? Oh, my goodness. Xander Crew coming through with the $5 super chat. There you go. Morning. He's getting lazy. He's not even going to lean over. But thank you so much. Xander Crew said, very cool. Chill channel. Love chatting with non-brain dead folks. Well, that's what I'm trying to build here. So if you know anybody else who would like to party with us, please let them know. Let's get this party hopping. I really want, I really, as much as I, want this to be my job where I can make money from, just sitting here and talking about this stuff. I really, really, really do care more about building the community than making money or becoming famous or getting to talk to other people. And, Like, yeah, if I can get on Tim Pool's show or Joe Rogan, that would be amazing. But the process of building this community and finding you guys and putting something out there to bring you guys in has brought me so much satisfaction. So much. I really do appreciate you guys. So let's hop back in here. We'll get some more.
Just does not allow for any kind of middle ground. I think that, you know, in the past, I would have said like, oh, I'll call people whatever pronoun they ask me. But then it went to they, and that's already iffy. And then they went to like zer, and I don't even know what that is. And now like there are literally just so
You don't know what a zim-zer is? How dare you?
many others. You can't keep playing this game. It's you have to say no early now, and it sucks because like I don't think I cared when Drag Queen Story Hour first hit. I think I thought, you know, who cares if parents want to take their kids to this, whatever. But now when I see that, you know, the G-string twerking, I'm like, no, make that illegal right now.
So Dr. Ogden says, according to an analysis of data by the Census Bureau's recent household pulse survey, 8% of the respondents identified themselves as LGBTQ plus, suggesting previous surveys undercounted the population. It's gone up. What do we expect? This is why when people are quoting, numbers like, oh, is it 5%? Is it 0.5%? Is it 1%? Is it? That's irrelevant because they are pushing it. And whatever it is, it's going to go up. That's why it was a huge faux pas on the part of Matt Walsh when he was on Rogan. And he was saying that tens of thousands of kids have had surgeries because it may seem that way. But that is why we have to be on point. Because it doesn't matter that he thought it was more than it was. I mean, it does matter. You should understand what you're talking about. But the problem is that now it seems like, oh, that's so ridiculous. When it's like, it will be that number very soon. As long as you keep pushing it. Xander said, there he is on the ground again. How does he do that? How does he do that? Drag shows and bodybuilders are not the same and should not be equated. Totally different forms of performance. Just because they're on stage doesn't mean they're the same. I would agree. I mean, there's no, I don't think there's any aspect of sexuality to bodybuilding, you know. Drag has become political on purpose. They see the chance to poison unhappy, depressed youth by lying to them and making them part of their army of mindless NPC wokies. Spot on, Xander, as always.
Where is that coming from? Because I don't understand. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. I don't understand.
Right.
Why do children need to be exposed to obviously sexualized behavior?
Right.
I don't care.
And of course, the answer is that they don't have to be.
I don't care if it's a drag queen. I don't care if it's a stripper. I don't care if it's
It's
the
only a
metalwork
drag
teacher.
queen. It's
Right?
never going to be a stripper. That's the whole thing. They get it. They get you, or they get other people to say that this is okay through using LGBT, community, basically.
Right, because if you got Stormy Daniels to turn up in a
Exactly.
G-string, nobody will be like,
No
oh yeah, this is
one-
important.
right.
Okay.
Can you imagine Stormy Daniels' reading hour? Oh my, lips would explode. They would explode.
Nobody thinks it's okay for a woman to, dance around in 6-inch heels and a G-string for kids. But a man dressed as a woman becomes okay. And you see this also with pornography in school libraries. That's become a huge thing.
What do you mean?
What?
Yeah. No,
What do you
no.
mean pornography in school
Pornography in school libraries has become a giant thing in the U.S. because
What do you mean?
parents keep finding pornography in their kids' school library.
What do you mean by pornography?
I mean, it would shock you. Not like
I mean, you haven't seen
spreads,
his phone.
but
But that's why we took the detour to see what was actually in the genderqueer book from that kid reading it, because this is kind of nebulous if you don't know exactly how disgusting it actually is. When you hear them talking about, the old man grabbed my hips and turned me over and I didn't know what was happening, but I was so excited, and then he reached in and I'm like, what? Get that out of here.
Hell no. Fucking Christ.
Xander says, we got that one. Dr. Octagon said, I'll make a prediction. All right, prediction time. LGBT will become like Christians, calling each other never a true believer, the no true Scotsman. Yup. Yup. And the famous shirt from my6shirt.com, you can get your very own Biden equals minor attracted president. Where you'll wear it, I have no idea, but I got one. You should too.
Just a joke.
It's just, it's books that literally talk about, show pictures of sex acts. But the sex,
Hold on.
yeah.
Look, when I was a kid, my
Yes.
parents, when I was a teenager, gave me a book which was educational about sex.
Did it have somebody on their knees and giving oral sex?
No.
No, right. So no. And did it have like sexting in it, where two boys sext each other dirty pictures or ask for really graphic things to be sent to them? It didn't. And you would be shocked. And it's happening at elementary schools. So in the US, again, that's till 5th grade. That's 11, 12 years old is where elementary school ends.
And again, we just saw that kid reading what they're talking about. It is graphic. It is graphic.
In Florida, Governor DeSantis has made them go through all the libraries, and for this he's called a book banner, and remove a certain these books that they know that they exist, right? So he sent out, so he had a press conference where he was talking about what books they were getting rid of. And he started reading from these books, and news channels had to pull away from his press conference because they can't show that on TV. They can't have that language on TV.
But you can't show that to 10-year-olds.
But you can show that to 10-year-olds. And the quirk here is...
That's the liberal logic right there. Yeah, I agree, Xander. Plus, drag uses a caricature of dolled up sexualized females to perform. Yes, there are anomalies, but most drag queens are explicit, dirty, sexual, and crude.
Bingo!
It's not there. There's a reason that drag queens have been relegated to clubs and nightclubs and bars and stuff like that. The same reason that strippers have been relegated to bars and clubs and stuff like that, because it's not appropriate for everyone. It's not even appropriate for everyone in terms of like what people want to see. People just don't want to see that. So if you like that, go and do your thing. But leave me out of it, and certainly leave the kids out of it. Zippy says, glorifying sex acts is the problem. Sex ed should be bland and clinical. Yep. Dr. Acreon said, I heard they removed the Bible in some schools also.
What?
I do feel like I remember hearing about that. Which I think is stupid. There's nothing inherently, graphic. Well, I mean, I guess there is. Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument. I wouldn't be for it. I think, I definitely wouldn't want it to be in the curriculum. But I would have no issues with the Bible or the Quran or anything being in the school library. But even there, with the violence and the sexual stuff, at least that's in context of supposedly a greater good. At least. Like, have you ever heard the story about Lot and his daughters? Long story short, they're little whores. He got drunk one night, they got him drunk one night so they could take turns fucking him. That is in the Bible.
Bingo!
And we wonder why.
It's always a gay story. Because you can't show straight sex at that age to kids. But somehow it becomes okay when it's a gay story. And this is how they are able to protect themselves from a lot of criticism, because we're just showing LGBT youth stories about them. And this, if you have a problem with this, you're a bigot.
Karol, you're not making this up, are you?
Swear. I'll send you. I will. You can. I don't know if you're going to be able to post the pictures, but you will be. Look up pornography elementary schools, Florida.
I mean, I don't want that in my Google history. But
Anton's our producer.
Well, yeah. I mean, if parents are complaining about that being in the Bible, I mean, they're not wrong. There is explicit sexual stories in the Bible. I think there is a difference between those stories and the even as a staunch atheist, I think there is a big difference between the stories in the Bible being what they are and a whole book specifically just to be like, here, look. At least the Bible is trying to do something good. Failing, in my opinion, but trying. Let's get on. You guys, we're getting to that level, which I really, 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 really appreciate. I'm getting excited, but I don't want you guys to take anything personally. I love that you guys are all part of the chat. So, we'll be here forever if we stop on every single one. Usually I try to do that, but once you guys come through and be as awesome as you are, we just be here all night. So please don't be offended if I don't stop on your comment.
Mate, we're going to do that on your phone.
You have a look, mate.
All right. Yeah. I hear you.
But we use the word they, and I think this is really important to specify. Who are they?
There's a lot of theys. I know that
They are the people who are pushing this stuff, not the people who live this way. The people who are pushing the ideology on you and your children. If you're living any sort of way, with exceptions, obviously. If you're living any sort of way, that is nothing for me to be concerned about. But the fact of pushing an ideology is very, very, very different.
it seems like I'm calling out some shadowy group that doesn't exist. But it comes from a lot of different places. So one of the examples, again, with one of these pornographic books, they're a 11-year-old boy, I think around that age, got up at a school board meeting, started reading from this book. Again, they're all shocked.
Now we just watched it. I'm glad she brought it up because we just watched that. Xander said it's not something kids should see, period. We should have standards as a people that men should not dress as females. And if you are, you can do that in the shadows of the club life when you are old. I mean, I'm even more liberal than that. If you want to be a drag queen, then just as long as you're following the same rules of common decency, I don't have a problem with you being out in the world. I don't think you need to be, pushed in like something that nobody could see. But it's just gone too far. It's just gone too far.
Please stop speaking. That's really disgusting. And he's like, I got this in my elementary school library. He got it from the librarian. The librarian offered him this book and then said, if you like it, I have others like it.
This is a good point, Dr. Agon. At that point, when we're talking about removing things because it's in the Bible, there's gratuitous stuff in anatomy books too, but there's a bigger purpose. There's an academic reason for it to be there. What is the academic reason behind genderqueer? Hang on.
Yeah, this is, again, happening where it's at every level. We have a chapter on libraries and book publishing where, again, super woke, completely ideologically captured, and pushing a very specific agenda.
Do you have a website or do you plan to have a website? Because and censorship. This, and I'm looking at it through a UK team.
So let's go before we dive in. Zippy says, personal and individual rights. A man in a dress is still a man and should be held to the same rules as males and females. Fair enough.
Lens, and I go back to my training. This breaks every single safeguarding guideline that I have ever heard. Because if someone told me that a boy in my class, or a girl, doesn't matter, was getting content or books which have sexual connotations and pornographic, that to me is grooming. Exactly. And I would have to report it.
Well,
so, and he's a teacher, which is why he's saying that. But think about what did he just say? I forgot what he was going to say. And tell me, put a 1 in the chat. If in your schooling career, it would definitely be younger, but if there was a kid who would draw, things that you weren't allowed to draw, whether it was, just drawing dicks on the paper or drawing sexual stuff or drawing stick figures, there was always one kid every year that would get in trouble for stupid little drawings like that. And now they are giving them the books. They are giving him the books.
Content or books which have sexual connotations and pornographic, that to me is grooming. Exactly. And I would have to report it.
Well,
and if I didn't report it, I would get in problem.
Dr. Rockan, come on, bring it up. I got to tell you something. Me too. I would draw the funniest stick figure sex things, and I'd fold them up into a note, and I would pass them to a girl, and she'd laugh and be like, "Oh, that's good." Oh, I was definitely that kid. Xander saw that kid. I'm telling you, there was always one of us.
I would get in trouble, quite rightly so.
It's absolutely grooming, and it's grooming them to not have a perspective on what safety is. Not being able to say, this doesn't feel right to me, because you're supposed to be okay with all of it.
And where does that lead? If a child doesn't know how or when to express that they are in a situation that they are uncomfortable with and they don't want to be, they're gonna get RP'd.
You must see these books, because the fact that you haven't seen these, I don't know if, again, I would love to hear if this is happening in UK schools once you see like the book titles, because they're really common here. It's not like 2 schools found it. It's like dozens and dozens of schools found it just in Florida and in other states, and it's everywhere.
Sorry, Francis. I just
go for it.
To follow up on that. We, as far as I didn't know you had this here. I don't know if we have in the UK. We did have some kind of a show that was marketed to families with children that was called, I think, the Family Sex Show.
Sex Show, yeah.
Family Sex Show, in which the actors were encouraged at one point to remove items of clothing up to and including full frontal nudity. And I still remember when we talked about it on the show, the lines were, "I have a penis in my pants, touch it, touch it, touch it."
What?
Yeah.
And where's this? Why is this happening?
Why is this happening? Why is it happening?
Why is it happening? Who wants to? Who is it? Look, I'm sorry. In my day, if somebody wanted to sexualize children, we knew what that was, right? We had a name for those people, and
pedo. And yeah, Xander's absolutely right. It leads to a population of totally editable adults that are easily swayed by corporations and big pharma. This is a long game for the soul of our country. Well said. Well said. Yep. We were, everybody knew. Xander said they learn how to bend reality by hijacking vocabulary, also known as, say it with me, guys, semantic obfuscation. I'm telling you, dogmatic thinking and semantic obfuscation are at the core of every single issue that we have in this nation. Every single one.
We tried to arrest them and put them in prison, right? Why is this happening now in our society?
So again, why it's happening is it is to end up with these kids being messed up. I know I know how it sounds. I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory. Who would want to mess up kids? But look, in all these totalitarian societies, that was the goal, to unbalance the family, to make the kids all messed up and make them easier to control. So even though that sounds like something that is crazy, like who would want to harm kids, this is something that has happened throughout history.
Well, yeah, and I forget. I'm sorry who said it earlier, but the elites in any aspect has always been tied to abusing kids. What I don't understand what it is about being, again, we'd say elite, being the elite, whether you're at the top of your game in something, I don't know, politics, and we were talking about how it was in the church. Obviously, it's rampant in communities like that. I guess it just serves the perfect cover. Because who would ever expect that the buttoned up Christian pastor would ever be harming children? Who would ever suspect that just the meek gender binary whatever teacher, who would ever do that? That's really what they want you to think. Thankfully, it is failing.
So many other places. It's just unique that it's happening here and now. And then the idea of removing the kids' barriers and making them more woke to everything that's going on is absolutely part of it. Why have kids protest? Why have kids do any of this? Why have kids learn about grown-up topics? It's all to remove the barrier of, this is not for kids. This is not okay to do to children. And once you remove that barrier and kids become your little activists who can be, any agenda could be pushed, they're really hard to argue with. Look at the climate, Greta, it's impossible to argue with her. It's getting easier as she gets older, but who was going to argue with her when she was like a, adorable little crazy teenager? And we have that with gun control in the US too. Like the teenagers who speak out on guns, they're impossible to challenge because they're kids and you don't want to argue with
Mhm.
children. And this is the thing.
And this goes full circle to what we were talking about before when using children as a political pawn. This is why even in the small case of something that we think is good, like a free speech rally, you would think, I mean, I wouldn't expect, I wouldn't expect that there would be anything that gratuitous at a free speech rally, but free speech, you don't know. Maybe you don't want rampant free speech in front of your child. Maybe that is a notion for adults.
That ends up happening.
Karol, do you think as well, maybe we're projecting a bit too much? I'm not talking about the pornographic stuff because that's vile, but I'm talking about the other things. Is it just that these people see that they are, to quote what they always say, on the right side of history? And that being the case, it's only right that we teach kids about what it means to be on the right side of history, then the whole kind of indoctrination and mind control. Do people really think that deeply? I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I think the reason this ideology is so powerful is it makes you feel good. It makes you feel you're doing the right thing. And if you feel you're doing the right thing and you feel good, then you're going to spread it, aren't you?
Right, but so...
Well, I'm just like the best person. I'm like so good because of all of this, and I'm better than you.
Which part? Like you're saying the drag queens, or
no, not the drag queens. No, not the drag.
I don't know. Right, I'm willing to believe you. And again, I'm.
But for instance, like with the climate, if you genuinely believe that we were in a climate emergency, then why wouldn't you teach kids? Do you see what I mean?
Why? Why would you teach kids that the Earth might end soon? Like, what are they going to do about it other than not sleep at night?
Based.
Like, I don't know.
They're going to stop using plastic straws, and everything's going to be fine.
Right. And when Britain can, I love referring to your speech, but when it sinks into the sea and nobody cares, like that, it's still not going to make a dent in climate change.
Exactly. And that's why, I say it applies to the free speech thing as well. Even though, free speech seems like a very innocuous like thing to stand for, then once you want to be careful, because you absolutely do want to indoctrinate your children with with some ideas. You don't want to just send them out in the world as a blank slate, because then they can get caught up in anything. So you do want to indoctrinate them in your values, but there just has to be something. It can't be dogmatic, guys. That's it. It's the dogma. It's the dogma. And then even if it's appropriate, nothing bad happens at the free speech rally, then the idea that people are, political prisoners because of their opinion, like, what is a 6-year-old going to do with that? What is a 6-year-old going to do to help that prisoner? More importantly, what is that 6th grader going to do? Did I say 6th grader or 6-year-old or whatever? 6th grader or 6-year-old. What are they going to do different than if you go to the rally and then you come home and tell them what you saw, what you believe, so on and so forth? Unwanted Foe said, what was the road to hell paved with? Good intentions. I like that teamwork there. I love it. Sandra says it's reinforced by the leftist media. They've made a sort of reward system for being woke. People get a treat whenever they side with them. And honestly, trans people, especially kids, really value group acceptance. I mean, everybody does. But when you remember, again, we were talking before about if you hear something every day, it's going to become true, whether or not it actually comports with reality. And so if you are told over and over again that you're oppressed and that you need to celebrate your pride because of all of this, then that is going to make you especially vulnerable to that. And then exactly, they're using vulnerable and standard growing up pains against people who are the weakest. Did anybody here enjoy the process of going through puberty? Did anybody have anything that was, or rather, did anybody have no confusion and no questions and no discomfort and no vulnerability? Of course not. That's why they got a name for it. They call it puberty because it's a thing that happens, and it's different than everything else that happens. You know what I mean?
So there's no real purpose of teaching kids about adult issues unless you want them to stress and worry about it, because they can't do anything. Again, I can send you my son's, plan from when he was 7 years old and how we're all going to live in caves, and that's what they end up coming up with. They're not like the smartest, these 7-year-olds. I mean,
well, right, and on this, I mean, you are right. When I was growing up, we were also told, we're about to run out of oil, we're about to run out of coal, we're all of these things. I don't remember this level of like
intensity,
anxiety.
Well, it's not just intensity and anxiety. It is that, but it's also the perceived responsibility that is put on you to fix the issues. And it's because like with virtue signaling, it seems like everybody else, they're saying the right things, so they must be doing the right things. And so if I'm not saying the right things, I'm definitely not doing the right things, and that's where you feel guilty. But really, none of those people are doing anything except what you see them say. And a lot of times, it's just into the void on Twitter. They're nobodies like you and me, and they're just tweeting to a couple hundred followers. Most people are just going to scroll right past it. Half of them already agree with you. Half of them are not going to say anything because they don't care about who you are. There's no reason to inflict that type of anxiety on a child, that intensity on a child. It's bad enough for us as adults because, again, even as adults, alone, we cannot fix this world. Individually, we cannot fix this world. We absolutely have to, if we want the world fixed, to play our part. But that's all we can do.
No, that wasn't happening.
Right. So again, had we been having this
too.
Conversation 3 years ago, I probably would be with you. Like nobody thinks about this deeply. This is crazy. But so much has changed in the last 3 years where I do think so much of it is willful and it is meant to mess the kids up. And so many people in charge, or like Randy Weingarten, basically runs schools throughout the United States. He's head of the teachers union. Very powerful,
Exactly.
At the Biden White House, got to write COVID policy for whether schools open or not. Not a scientist, obviously, not a doctor, just got to write policy about whether kids get to go to school. Doesn't have kids, doesn't have any kind of care about kids, and yet she gets to control so much of what happens to children.
So Sanders says they want us to be in a constant state of panic and trauma. In panic. Trauma does interesting things to the mind and the soul, makes us malleable. It's exactly how abusers keep their abused in check. Trauma. You get it, man. You get it. Zuby says critical thinking solves a lot of problems, but the collective dislikes it. So that's why we have to come together and be the collective of individuals instead of the collective of just a group. The right side of history. We are individuals, but we collectively have values that we want to espouse and live by to benefit and move our society forward, instead of just giving some hedonistic pleasure, earthly pleasure for right now, and not worry about what it's going to lead to. Browbeating the people is a good way to make them serfs and salves. Well said. Sanders said their big plans began after 9/11. I was a kid, and I remember the adults all around me becoming children themselves. Mankind is actually just one big disaster from total chaos. It's funny how we pretend to be so organized and so advanced. Yeah, I mean, that's where the saying "fake it till you make it." That's where that came from. It's like we pretend that we have it all together because we want everybody else to think we have it all together. But really, nobody knows anything about anything. Nobody knows anything about anything. Some people might have a better understanding of this, and some people might know how to do that. But at the end of the day, we're all just fumbling through life. We're doing the best we can. So he says, unify around the individual to protect the individual, to empower the individual. Definitely.
So do I think it's by design? I do at this point. There's too many coincidences here. I think a lot of the, you were saying about the grooming and whatever, there's other ways, not just sexual grooming, but to groom them to accept different ideas and to be able to immediately convince them of things. There's another kind of grooming. It's intellectual grooming, but that's what's happening also, making them believe that this set of ideas is the only set of ideas allowed, and this is what we're going to push to you.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem. Plus, as well, you know, one of the great tragedies about education is that education rapidly becomes political because adults are political. And unless they have a real discipline, they bring politics into the classroom.
Bingo!
And the problem is with doing that is kids, they don't yet have the capacity to take on an idea, to break it down, to analyze strengths and weaknesses, unless you teach them that.
So Any Film says, Catholic school kid here. We definitely learned how to question, to think logically, and critical thinking. The issue isn't the Christianity. The issue isn't anything like that. It's the entire culture. So the kids who went to public school in I don't know, I'm not gonna say when, but at the same time, when the kids who were in public school, they weren't being groomed like this. It's the society that has changed. Whether or not Catholic school and public school, that's a completely different conversation. What we're talking about is the fact that school, that education in general, by and large, has gone through this radical change. Zippy says, speaking of chaos, anyone read School of Errors? Nope. You're on his podcast. Cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. Xander said, Americans made a big mistake in giving the education system to our corrupt government. They're giving the wolves the keys to the sheep shed. And now here we are.
And that's another part of the problem, is that we don't teach critical thinking in schools.
Absolutely, because you're not allowed to. Why would we allow critical thinking in schools when we need them to believe certain things that we're telling them? We do a lot of critical thinking stuff at home. For us, it's really important that my kids can identify when somebody's trying to convince them of something.
I thought she was going to say when my kids identify their gender. Oh, man. I was like, no, you're so close.
And so my older two, my youngest is 7. He doesn't count yet. But my older two are really, they're woke police. They are like, wait, I heard something. Is this something? And often they're right. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes I'm like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about that. But they're very careful about what gets told to them. And I let, again, my...
Can we get an example there? What are you talking about?
Co-author protects her kids from all media. My kids are on YouTube. They're watching stuff. And what I end up discovering is that because I let them watch whatever they want, they end up watching the world's most wholesome stuff. They are just like the Mormon channel. Like, oh.
Is there a punchline coming? That's just luck.
This Mormon comedy skit with no cursing at all, or bad themes is what my kids watch.
And Karol, if people want more on that, I really recommend they read the book Stolen Youth. But before we wrap up, I wanted to spend a few minutes. I mean, the COVID policies managed to achieve something that's very difficult, which is to get some New York Jews to move out. Right? That used to be pretty hard. What happened?
Well, for us, it was really around schools, that the schools were closed, only the public schools, which is the public schools in Britain, I know mean private schools, but here, like our local schools were closed. But if you paid $50,000 to $70,000 to go to private school in New York City, your schools were open because they were COVID safe.
The link I just dropped is the book that Zippy is talking about.
And the thing was that our neighbors had spent that summer of 2020. We lived in a very left neighborhood, which never mattered. It was fine. We didn't care at all. It was like, yeah, we were open conservatives. We had friends, which we still do. But it never mattered until then, where we watched them march for equity and then not say one word when the poorest kids in the city couldn't get help, couldn't go to school, didn't get to, my neighbors hired for their own kids tutors, or they formed pods, or they moved to their beach house and sent the kids to school there.
That's what I was talking about. The pods where you can, you can find a Facebook group or a Craigslist ad or something and just say, look, I am trying to take my kid out of public school or out of, I wouldn't even, how would you even call it? Like public school, private school, Catholic school, like traditional schooling. I want to take my child out of traditional schooling. I want to homeschool my child, but me and my partner work, and we're not able to, do that job. And I'm sure a lot of you do as well. So maybe we'll get, again, 10 families, and twice a month, you take a day off work, you are at home, and you don't even have to be the teacher. You hire a tutor or a teacher. It's one tutor for all the kids, so you just split the cost. You don't have to worry about all the costs that go towards towards putting them on the bus and buying new books and putting all that stuff. And then you would ideally also get a tax voucher for not using the resources at the school. That is the solution.
And they didn't speak up at all for the kids all around the city. I grew up really poor in Brooklyn, in the immigrant story. And so all of my kids all of my friends from childhood are blue collar workers who didn't get to sit at home and order Uber Eats during the pandemic and treat it like a little vacation. And I saw that nobody cared about them at all. And the New York that I had always loved was one that when bad things happen to us, we join together, and we, 9/11 happens, we become the world's most patriotic city. Or
oh my God, I really, really, really thought for just a little bit, that maybe this whole thing that started with Trump coming down the stairs, the golden escalator, and going into politics, and everybody's brain explodes. I thought once COVID came around, it would recalibrate everybody and be like, okay, all right. Yeah, Trump's kind of, we don't like him. He says weird things, but Marty threw up too many treats. No, definitely not too many treats. What did you get into? Oh, he fucking ate my bagel this morning. Is that why you've been feeling weird? All right. Anyway, he's good. He's good. I forgot what I was talking about, but yeah, I thought we were really going to come together as a nation around COVID, but that certainly didn't happen.
Or we had a blackout in 2003. We ended up, helping each other. Old ladies, people would bring them food, or we really do step up. The Superstorm Sandy was another one. We had a major hurricane, and power was out throughout most of the city, and people really helped each other.
Quick little aside, quick little story back on memory lane. This is when Akon was still alive. Hurricane Sandy. I believe that was probably 2013, 2012. Somewhere around there. And I live in Jersey, so we were we were looking to do something. We were bored, and everything was closed down because of the hurricane. We're checking out we were online looking at the AC or the Atlantic City casinos and when they were going to open. And we're sitting in my house, and we're just reloading the page. And then finally it says the casino is now open. And so we jumped in the car, we ran, we drove down there, and it was kind of depressing to see how much damage it was, but it was awesome that it was like Atlantic City just for us. It was pretty cool. Xander says COVID exposed the immense difference between the polarities of our country and the world. It was meant to kick the division up, divide and conquer. Yup.
And this was the first moment that I was like, these assholes didn't want to help anybody, didn't do anything at all, took care of their own kids, all while marching for equity in the streets like liars. And I could never unsee that. And that was what really pushed us out the door. It was a lot of things were going right in Florida. Governor DeSantis, I think, did an amazing job on COVID, but on so much more. And we liked the way the direction Florida was going, and we wanted to be somewhere sane for the first time in our lives.
And one of the things about New York, Francis and I were there last year. We'll be back there very soon again. And it's not just New York, because the same thing is the case in Nashville. The same thing to even larger extent is the case in LA. And this is what we've seen with our own eyes. And I know San Francisco is even worse. I mean, for people who haven't been to New York.
Worse is a light word to describe San Francisco.
New York lately. I'm not exaggerating when I say you walk out of the door, and in quite a lot of parts of New York, I mean, it is literally a human zoo now.
Right.
In terms of homeless people with no clothes on the street. We were driving We went to pick a parcel up in DC, and we had to go out of like the main pretty bit in the center, and we were in a cab somewhere.
Have you guys ever been to DC? Have you ever gone outside the actual like what do they call it, the mall? I forget what they call it, but if you've been outside that area, it is rough. It is rough.
And we were stopped at a traffic light, and there was a guy lying there with no shirt on. And I said to our producer, I said, "Do you think he's all right?" And Anton went, "I would go with no." But you literally have in the most powerful, wealthiest country in the world, hundreds of people in major cities lying around in the street because they're addicted to drugs or whatever. Like,
I mean, who has a good explanation for that? I'm glad we are all white-pilled on the poll. 100% yes, this problem is fixable. I do believe it is fixable, but it is up to us. It is up to us. If you wait for somebody else to do it, it will not happen. Xander says, I struggle between wanting to speak up and fight and wanting to live a peaceful life. I've gone through the Trump experience in my life when I've spoken out, and it sucks. You know what sucks more? The world that we're going to live in if we don't speak up. That's way worse. I can guarantee you. Well, 99%, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think if there's no pushback against this stuff and it becomes a completely, and if it completely engulfs our culture where there is no other side to it, like the inverse of what happened with slavery, where now slavery is like there's nobody who you would find to be a rational person who's like, yay, slavery. You're not going to find that. If we keep going like we are and we don't continue to push back, then the world we live in will be one of mental slavery. In that, I mean, I don't want to water down what slavery was, but it's going to be bad. That's the point. I said I've been called homophobic by straight people because I said men should be masculine and females should be feminine. Yeah, well, people only hate when you're doing something right. People don't hate on losers. People don't hate on people they are not threatened by. We want not to threaten them, but their ideology. We want them to feel their ideology being threatened. And so they should call you names. They should do this. Because that's all they have. We're the ones who have the actual values, the actual logical, rational answers to how we should live life. Not on everything, but we have certainly better answers than they do. So he says the Democrats need people laying in the streets. Yep, they need it. Exactly. It is inevitable. And like I said, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. The only reason these people felt comfortable saying these things to you was because they felt like they are on the right side of history. And you didn't say the right thing. So you must be on the wrong side of history. And so this is the chunk of normal people in the middle. I'm talking about this all the time. Like we are part of an extreme side of the political spectrum. If you're watching a show like this, you're not just some normal person who just goes about your life and doesn't care about politics. You at least care more than the average person. And caring more than the average person puts you, if this is the far extremes is the actual screen, then people like us who talk about politics, who care about politics, are right in here. Then there's everybody else who doesn't give a flying fuck. All of these people will just go with whatever the direction is. And so if this extreme is doing better than this extreme, then they're just going to go this way. But if this extreme is better, and this version of extreme is not as extreme and is actually rational and logical and will help society, then they will not only move that way, but it'll be better for all of us.
How's that happening in this country?
So I would tie this all back to wokeness because, again, I grew up in 1980s Brooklyn. Things were really bad. Crime was worse than it is now, but it had been bad for a long time. And the difference that I always like to point out is that nobody in 1980s Brooklyn was saying like, "Oh, this isn't that bad. Look at these, look at the numbers from the 1970s. Like we are doing so much better than we were doing 10 years ago." But now it's like a giant ask to get people to admit that crime is bad, that crime is happening, that homelessness is bad, that homelessness is happening. It's very like, what are you talking about? Look at.
Yeah, so Xander said, if I wasn't afraid of my family getting ended, I'd be a modern George Washington against the evil people running our country. And I get that. But, and I'm not in a position to judge or to cast aspersions or anything, but I will echo what Tim Pool says. Also somebody who doesn't have kids, so take it with a grain of salt. But again, if we think about that world where we've gone to the wrong extreme, is that not more likely that your family's going to get murdered? Is that not more likely that you're going to be in a terrible, horrible position no matter what the landscape is? There's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. You either win or you die. You either win or you die. Hey, Unwatched Foe! Out sponsoring himself. Uber Eats. All right, we're gonna do Uber Eats. Let's see. We gotta use a peanut butter banana one. He won't even take the regular ones anymore. But maybe he's feeling sick. All right, let's see. Morty here. Morty, look. There you go. Well, it's over there. Go get it. It's by the pillow. Go get it. We're gonna. Yep. There. No. He's gonna come here. Talk about derailing the show. Here. Come on here. There you go. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Look at the 1980s. It was so much worse back then. But who cares? Who cares that it was worse back then? Then we had years and years of New York being the most amazing place to be. And that's the thing. I was so into New York and I was so defensive of New York because it was great. It was a great place to be in my 20s. It was a great place for us to have our kids in my 30s. And then now it's like you can't admit that there's a problem. And that, again, is step one. And you can't admit there's a problem because wokeness says that you're not supposed to notice that these policies have led to this outcome and that it's only happening really primarily in blue areas. Like Miami has problems. I'm not saying it's not. Dallas, Houston, all cities have problems, but at least they admit these are problems worth fighting or challenging or doing something about. In New York, they can't get to that first step of this is a problem, let's do something about it.
Do you think we spend far too much time talking about other things and not enough time talking about these things?
That's an interesting question because so many people will say that we're wasting time talking about these culture issues and that, in fact, we should be talking about the economy or the war or this or that. But again, people don't care. People don't care. And if you're not going to get them on the economy or Ukraine or Russia, if you're not going to get them on that stuff, you can at least get them to lean in your direction and be like, oh, well, I don't really know a lot about politics, but let's just saying that, Bud Light was the gay beer now. So I'm not going to buy it. Little things like that. Then they see that echoed in society. And then maybe they're even the position where oh, look at that guy drinking Bud Light. Let's make fun of him. And now they're like, oh, you know something. That puts you in a different position. Maybe I should listen to a little bit more of what you have to say about something different that's maybe not as sexy and spicy. That is where it differs. I think I miscounted here, but I'll fix that. Indie Film said Morty is getting freaking spoiled. Thanks to you guys, he definitely is. You'll have to up your game and get some steak bites. Yup, that is for sure. And he's gonna love them. He's gonna love them. Thank you so much, guys. Xander said culture is important for the lifeblood of a country. Yep, politics is downstream from culture. Chop up that prime rib and for Morty. Nah. I was gonna be like, wait. Did you think that Morty was a girl this whole time? Okay. Destroy the culture and the country falls. Protecting the public from trans ideology is important, and military might is important. Both important. Both important. All right, let's see what she has to say. Are we not spending enough time talking about this stuff?
I mean, I feel like we talk about a lot about crime in the U.S. And the homeless issue, because places that are doing crazy things like legalizing drug use out in the open are seeing obviously an increase in both drug use and homelessness and also crime.
Yeah, if you're going to legalize drug use, which absolutely should be done, it has to be done in a way where it's not just all over the streets. That's the whole issue with it in the first place. If you're going to make it legal, the whole point is to clean it up. Get it in a nice little package so that, whenever you're ready, just and you're good. Is there anything in here? Oh my God. And it's just incomplete thoughts about, I want this now. Doesn't matter what's going to happen later. I want this now. Therefore, I should get it. That's the extent of the logic that's applied to this.
And in the U.S., we do talk about, like, look, your policies are leading to bad outcomes. And it's like, no, but these policies are equitable. So this is what we're going to be doing now. So we do talk about it a lot. It's not like this isn't a topic that gets covered a lot. It gets dismissed as right-wing, paranoia. And if you notice that things are bad and things are... and I watched this happen to liberals in my very leftist neighborhood in Brooklyn, where if they said they were worried about crime, they would get it on Facebook in a group or whatever. They'd get hundreds of comments like, "What crime? What are you talking about? What are you like? Put away your MAGA hat."
You don't have to be ideological. Just walking around New York.
Yeah.
You're literally confronted with human misery. It's not that you go, "Oh, these people are smelly, get the plebs away from me." You're going like, these people are in distress.
And 10 years ago, this wasn't the case.
Absolutely.
Which is really what the point is. Like, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this for a long time. It was 8 years of Rudy Giuliani, followed by 12 years of Michael Bloomberg, and even the first term of
Eric Adams.
de Blasio, Mayor Bill de Blasio. We were coasting because even though he's like a super leftist and his ideas are really stupid, things were so good for so long that New York was just like free rolling basically, and then that ended. And it's going to take a long time and a lot of work to get back to that place. And I don't know that New Yorkers want it. I think.
Oh, I don't know that New Yorkers want it. I mean, that's going to be a big issue. That's going to be a big issue. If people don't want things to change, or if people like the changes that are happening, we are in for a fight for sure.
I think that they keep voting for policies that don't do that. They don't solve any of these issues.
When is the pendulum going to swing back? Because the reality is it has to. You can't have, policies like, oh, if somebody steals something, as long as it's not I'm not sure if New York has $999.99, then it's not a crime. You go, this can't carry on. This is literally unsustainable.
Right.
Yeah, and you guys know what I've been saying about that pendulum is that, it's swinging and swinging and it's swinging to the left. And I think we are approaching the point where the speed of the swing is slowing down, and we're reaching that point. We're reaching that point where it's just going to be suspended in midair, and then it's going to swing back the other way. And we have to prepare to be sitting here so that when it comes, that we can cushion it and we end up right here instead of going all the way out there. We need to be able, let's do this like, you know what I mean? But, if it's swinging back and forth and it's up here, when it's coming back, we don't want it to swing back all the way over here. We want it to come and stay right around here. In the center, where most people are. Xander said, as a New Yorker, all I see is that most of us are so distracted, we don't even realize what is happening. That's what I'm telling you guys. People don't know. People don't care. That's why we have to do this to get people aware that there is something that they need to be paying attention to. Most of my family did not see the tyranny until it was too late, even though I was warning them for years. So even with all that warning, It wasn't enough. But maybe if we were if we were all together, we built something up, and I could have you on the show and we talk about it, and you could show it to them and they go, oh, okay, there's there's something here. There's a there. But without it, you're just a person. You're just some dude. Nick says, easier for most to put blinders on and pretend everything is fine. If you acknowledge the problem, you don't feel right about not trying to do something for it. The right thing isn't often easy. Exactly.
Bingo!
Exactly. Any Film says, New York pre-Giuliani was a hive of scum and villainy. During Giuliani, it was family friendly. Now it's sketchy as hell. Sketchy to say the least. To say the least. That's almost the same for everyone in first world nations. True. But but think of it as an extreme here. It is global, but New York has a special place in Satan's heart. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I hear exactly what you're saying.
Right. And these businesses keep leaving these areas. This major retailer, REI, just left Portland. REI is like hiking gear. Basically, everybody in Portland wears REI from head to toe. And that giant business has left Portland because they're just getting robbed all the time. And it's become an issue. They don't really like that. So yeah, it has to stop. And just the migration levels in the US, like the fact that people are moving places like Florida.
Vote with your feet. Vote with your feet. You have to vote with your feet and vote with your dollar. There's three things. You have to vote with your, the most important thing is how you vote with your attention. The second most important thing is how you vote with your dollars. And the third is how you vote with your feet.
In Texas at such a high rate. Last year in 2022, the year that we moved, we were 2 of 36,000 just New Yorkers who moved from New York to Florida. And that number is way higher than, just New Yorkers. So it's happening. People are making changes. And I don't know. I do see the pendulum swinging because it absolutely has to. But,
That's not a good mentality, though. Well, it has to eventually. I don't like that. I mean, I'm not saying that she's clearly on, she wrote her book. She works at Fox News. She works for the New York Post. She's obviously doing so. It's not aimed at her, but this idea that, well, eventually it has to swing back. That kind of feels like it is giving a credence to just like, all right, well, again, let me just try to duck and hide. And then hopefully the pendulum will just swing back. And then, I can be like, I was fine the whole time. Doesn't work like that. Nobody else is going to do it for you. It doesn't have to swing back. It doesn't have to swing back. It should swing back. Hopefully it will, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to at all. Yeah, the big apple that Eve was talked into. That's a good one. Oh, that's Apple Inc. Gotcha. Nope, no Apple products in this house, right? Do I have any? I don't think I have any Apple products in this house. Put a 1 in the chat if you have 0 Apple products in your home.
Never know. Communism lasted a long time. It wasn't like they didn't know it wasn't working. They did, but it still managed to keep on keeping on for decades. So I hope it changes in my lifetime. I hope my kids don't grow up in the insanity that we are living in right now. I feel lucky that they're young and I still have a few years of, getting them ready to be in college and be around the woke idiots and, etc.
All right. Well, there's a note of optimism. This may or may not end in the next few decades.
Beautiful. Shout out to the Android crew. What is good? What is good? What is good? Xander said Apple is just the brand, the brand that led a lot of it. All tech is dangerous, yet needed tool. Yep. That's the balance of life, right? There's all the things that we need, all the things that we like come with caveats. Some things are, in a certain way, you have to give up something of yourself. Sometimes you have to pay money, whatever it is. But there's a give and a get. Senator said living in VR and pods is around the corner. I mean, that don't seem so bad, honestly. If the world's going to go to shit, then I'll be the first one in the pod. I'll be like, all right, fuck it. Just give me the neural net, whatever. Let me just go live as a carrot, whatever. If nobody's going to fight, then I'm not going to be fighting by myself. Because again, nobody can fix this by themselves. So only those of us who are willing to stand up and stand together and fight. We're the only ones who are going to be able to do anything. So I'm going to be out here doing what I can do as long as I can do it. But certainly if it's not working, then that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. If it's not working, I'll certainly try something else, but we have to fight. There is no other way. When we get to the place of how is this life? How is this reality? How is this the thing that we're living in? When it's gotten that far, we just can't hope. We can't wish. We can't merely complain. We have to do something. And there's not one thing. It could be start a YouTube channel. It could be go to your school board meetings. It could be become a teacher so that you're not one of the not woke teachers. Whatever it is, but you just have to do something. Well, and on this from Indie Phil said, I won't be living in a pod. I'll be living down in the country. I thought you were going to say down by the river. Down in the country, growing my own food, raising my own chickens, and catching my own fish down by the river. There we go. And Nick says, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. There it is. There it is. That is the only way to approach. That is the only way to approach this. So, I mean, I know that we talk about some of the same kind of stuff a lot. And unfortunately, that's because the same things are still a problem. When we have different problems, we're going to have different conversations. But as long as this is still a problem, we have to talk about it. So I know that you guys didn't present anything fantastically new here. I know that for those of you who didn't know what genderqueer was, I'm sorry that to be the one to introduce that to your life, but unfortunately, that is what we are up against. So if you don't think that is good, then hope you will stay right here in the fight with me. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. You guys know how much I appreciate when you're being here, but I just got to tell you every time, it really makes such a big difference. You know, if you guys weren't here, I probably would have lost the will to continue doing this. So this show is just as much about you guys as it is about me and about Morty, of course. So thank you so much to who did we? Where is it? Hold on. Oh, there we go. All right. Shout out to Lars and Rune. Shout out to Indie Film. Shout out to Xander Crew, and of course, the sponsor of the stream, Unwanted Flow. Thank you so much. I really, and those of you who were in the chat, those of you who were giving me stuff to think about, stuff to talk about, it all makes it come together. I need all of you guys, and the fact that you guys are here is so amazing. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Once again, this has been Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and we will see you over in Discord, or I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Until then, we are out of here. Peace.